She was attacked by what appears to be essentially a robot.
Radio signal from another world. Sir?
This man is not a hero, he's a criminal. Shut up!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's your buddy Admiral Teag, and today with me is my buddy Resolute Germ. Hey, Germ, how you doing?
Not too bad. How you doing?
And I'm doing all right. And here we have Istaphobos, ladies and gentlemen. Istaphobos, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me. Were you going to say Admiral Resolute Germ? Like, when did you get a promotion?
I almost did. You know what? I would have to start turning up the pixelation on his food replicator, and I just don't want to pay for the upgrade for that. So, glad I stopped myself when I did. Good to see you. You're kind of like been all over town. You're well known on X. You've got some hot takes and opinions. You go viral a couple of times a week, and you're on a couple of shows like Trev Retro Show and other panelists. Tell people where they know you from and what they know you for.
Well, I don't think anybody knows me from Twitter because it looks like maybe 5 people see my tweets every day. But I've had a couple, go relatively viral, which isn't that big for me. But I started doing some guest shows with George the Giant Slayer, and then I've been watching Mr. Brown for years, and he had me on at the beginning of last year, and I guess I just started, people started asking me on to their shows. Like over the holidays, man, I was streaming every day. It was actually exhausting. This is a young man's game for sure. But I've trimmed it down a little. I usually do Mr. Brown's on Wednesday and Sunday nights, and Trev on Saturday. Trev's on Friday early evening. And maybe, depending on the movie, the Just Good Movies on Tuesday evenings, which would have been about, it usually ends about when you're starting. But he wanted to do Trek December. So, we were doing all the Trek movies, and that was a blast. It was a lot of fun.
I was in on that for a moment. Hold on, though. I've got something to take care of, something very pleasant. I want to be express some gratitude.
Admiral Teag, incoming super chat.
Ruby Hoof, thank you so much for your very generous United States, or as we'll be calling them now, Greenlandian dollars. Having a fabulous evening, everyone. You know what? Have a fabulous evening to Ruby Hoof. I hope you're feeling all right. And you know what? We're going to really do our best to entertain you tonight. We've got Star Trek just coming out the ears. We've got Starfell Academy coming out and a lot of other stuff to talk about along the lines of that. And Hello
And
to Michelle.
Admiral,
Yes.
you did miss one gifted membership.
Oh
from
my
Ruby
gosh.
Wilson.
Ruby Hoove has gifted a membership to our community.
Yeah, I see Ruby from a lot of the places I watch. I see him all the time, or her. I don't really know, but
I believe this is her because there's a Hoove.
Okay.
There is an unappolated Hoove. So I don't know. I mean, I believe so. From they're one of the nicest people I know. So I don't. It doesn't matter to me. But when we find out, my assumption is female.
Yeah, from a lot of the Disney Watcher type of channels, like WD Pro, and Value Renegade, and think maybe Doomcock. Anyway, super familiar. I see them everywhere.
I think that the first times I started crossing paths with the wonderful Ruby Hoove was at Culture Casino's beautiful casino there. It's not on not on a Guardian reservation. That's our word here. We call them Guardians.
Well, he's definitely with the rest of that crew. He's on those same shows I mentioned, and he's a good way to start the day in the morning with the little 5-minute,
35-minute, 6-minute daily.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a missus. I thought so. Thank you so much for helping out the community. And the gift membership went to our friend Bubba Doom, 1837. Bubba Doom, for a while there, we thought that you were Doomcock. We thought you were maybe we thought Bubba Doom was maybe Doomcock's all. We've come not to believe that, but the only way to do any show is to assume that every single person listening is the Critical Drinker or Doomcock or whoever else, and give it a show that you wouldn't be embarrassed of having them listen to. That's kind of our goal. And when we go into Star Trek stuff, we sort of staked our flag on this one. Saving Star Trek started out more as a brand, but it's become sort of a mission. But let me quickly say hi to all of my guests. The Apprentice 225, is that Kimberly? No, The Apprentice is someone else, right? Hello to Ruby. Hello to The Apprentice. Hello to Michelle Fairy Tales. It's good to see you. Sig Valdeson. Hello. Jason Love. Hello. Hello to the Trek reviewer. It's good to see everybody here. Sig Valdeson, I know I greeted you, but you deserve it twice. And John the Beagle Dad is also here on a stream where we don't have to wonder what life would be like on Mars. But I will probably do that later this week just because it's a pretty good thing for getting subs. I don't mind telling people that's some real good exposure. People get to watch roughly a minute of your show and either they like it or they don't. I can't deal with it all the time, but I was very relieved when YouTube changed it back to Mars is not recommended, because that one was a frightening ultimatum that came down the wrong way. Did you know the Mars thing came from StreamYards? They're the ones who dictated it and changed it to the default for YouTube.
I did not know that.
Well, here's a little inside streamer baseball. YouTube and Google and StreamYards are all the same thing, right? So when StreamYards makes a subtle suggestion that you shouldn't mess around too much with YouTube and maybe it would be better to do things their way on YouTube, you just do it because it's Google. You're like, this is not a subtle suggestion. This is a command. So we didn't do it all the time, but we gave them their Mars streams a couple of times a week to just sort of keep them in check. But they have changed that default quietly without dropping the demand. So I have found Mars has its place, but we don't get too into it. Hello, Lombardi 1969 and Crazy Horse 1985. I love that name. It's a great name. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. I think I would have to call it Neural Divergent Horse. But I don't want to be improper. And Susan Dolan from Doomcox. It's good to see Susan Dolan here. Hello, Susan. I got, let's see. Oh, here we go for Susan. She sounds the bosun's whistle for me every time I go into Doomcock's chat. She is the coolest person. I love you all. It's great to see you here. And let's get right down to the you're the guy who sends you the art over on X. Okay, Apprentice. Yes, we've been talking about some really detailed lore. Okay. Yes, Caleb, it's good to meet you. All right. I thought you were someone else, but it's a Kimberly who has a different alt that is, I'll remember it when I remember it. The going from the names to the handles. It's David Jones. That's right. I know it when I sees it. I'm not totally there yet with the handles. What did you think of the switch from names to handles, Istaphobos? I thought it kind of sucked.
It's annoying as all fuck. I just, got all the names down, and now, some of them are similar, but some of them are completely different. And
what I did is I started a different channel right away. I put my old name on that channel and then just changed both the handle and the channel to the same name here.
Yeah, no, I think it's a horrible change. And for whatever what their ostensible reason for doing it sounds like BS. So I don't know what they're really intending on doing.
My theory is it's anti-community. That it's to break up communities, cause it to be less familiar, to put a block there, and to pave the way for, the people who used to give us the fake news that was the approved fake news. You know what I mean? A certain network that might have letters that would be between B and D and M and O. Or, a network, or even Fox, they are coming on here. They got whooped because people didn't want their products. So now they're going to throw money around here, and we're going to do the best we can to hold out as far as we can into the night. But meet us on the next thing when our time comes. But Istaphobos, you were telling me you had just heard some fresh Kurtzman crack. So all of this is a grain of salt territory. This is rumors now and speculation. We'll protect ourselves. Due diligence here. Nobody can see these contracts, and we're going to kind of get into hopefully something that you guys will find interesting, and something that kind of has been. It's been more operative in what's going on in Star Trek than anyone can know. And once you know it, everything that happens makes sense, and a high degree of predictability can be had. In other words, on July 26th of 2024, Germ and I predicted that about this month, we would find out for sure what happened to Kurtzman with this formula.
And in fact, the rumor has it that Paramount Skydance just handed him a take it or leave it contract that should be hearing something soon, whether or not he takes it or leave it. Their posture, and this is rumor, I don't directly know the source. It's sort of third party, but the rumor is Paramount Skydance is not all that interested in negotiating, but they would rather keep him in the tent and have him pissing out. But they're not going to give them the kind of money that Nevins gave them. So there's here it is, take it or leave it. And it's kind of like a little first look thing where they don't have to make anything if they don't want to. And then they're not going to give them free reign anymore.
Our understanding is it's been that way for a while. That this is the sequence of events. It goes back to around the time Enterprise is on. Enterprise is doing all right, but Sumner Redstone's fed up and he doesn't care. And he's an old dude. He wants out of running his company. He starts that sale and breaks their company up into the movie division and the TV division around 04, right? So the contracts are written sort of with the idea that there would be harmonious cooperation between these studios and with Star Trek. At the same time, Star Trek goes on an extended break anyway, because he hated Enterprise, and then he ends up being not involved, whether he dies or not, or just becomes too old to care. And Shari Redstone gets in there, right? The movies and the TV licenses are weird. The original license is just a Star Trek license. That's Gene's, right?
Yeah.
He takes that to the movies, and as we know, movie one becomes quite controversial. Hey, Jason Love. It becomes quite controversial, and people are just at the studio are this movie ended up paying off, but four people had to be talked off the ledge from the amount of money we had out there. And Gene's you changed the idea a bunch of times. It's that's why nobody's fired here. Everything's cool. Here's the deal. You get a new TV show and we're taking the movies. And he's these are my characters. No, absolutely not. And they're how about some more money? And he's no, they're my characters. And someone snapped their fingers and a wheelbarrow full of hundreds came in and they're have another drink, Gene. We really need to talk about this. And they're we're promising you a top-notch movie, that every couple of years it aligns with your vision. You're staying on as an executive producer. You're going to get the kind of money that you couldn't dream of just by answering phone calls about how your world should work. And he's as long as I don't have to have a bald cap who's a woke dick, I'll go out there and have my own new show called Next Generation. And he thought, he died happily, not knowing what would happen. But that's the first license, and then license 2 for the movies only gets created.
Okay.
So license 1 is TV and Gene. License 2 is movies and Paramount. Neither of those licenses is in use.
Oh, right now?
Right. They're both on the shelf gathering dust. Kelvin is its own license. It's legally distinct, okay?
Yeah,
Now,
25% different.
That came from Tom Connors, who told me so himself, with Andre laughing right there. One of the smartest things any YouTuber could ever do is get a membership with Midnight's Edge and go to their member streams, which they honor and do all the time. They, like, Andre had to start doing time management on Tom because we would get so caught up in talking about Star Trek. He loves Star Trek and also, like, that encyclopedic recall, right? So the first look deal what you described is exactly what he told me they had. And he said that there was indications that, you know, if they passed in the first look, that someone else could buy Star Trek. And we saw proved out when Prodigy, which was done, ended up on Netflix. Now, Netflix's history with Star Trek Discovery and stuff like that, we'll get to in a minute. But when they lease Prodigy, we all know it's almost not Kurtzman at all. And that the show had been ended, the crews and everything were broken up, the cast and everything, even though it's a voice cast, and writers, they had all moved on. There was no putting it back together again within like 3 or 4 years. And if they did, they wouldn't have had to have Kurtzman in the picture anyway. It would be coming together in a year. So they didn't mind like having the last season of that be on there. And Paramount didn't mind letting it be leased because it was quality enough that it could never come back to haunt them. Germ, is that pretty much the way we've seen it? Am I missing any details?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Istaphobos, am you following this one so far?
Yeah, but my understanding is that Netflix would have never gotten the streaming rights, you know, without the explicit permission of the copyright holder, which would have been CBS.
It's Rod Roddenberry. It's Rod Roddenberry, and CBS signed on to the development deal next. So they could have stopped it by killing it with money, but CBS was so broke because they're in mid-sale. They're in mid-sale.
And they made money on it. So, yeah, because Netflix paid them.
Payment up front from Netflix for the licensing, and the idea was that this would be a great thing. There was hunger, the reverse of what happened at Hurt Enterprise. There was not franchise fatigue. There was franchise anticipation. People were waiting for that first drop of Star Trek catch-up to come out of the bottle, right? And there was money to be made. And you know what? Legally, D-strikes, I can assure there ain't enough pine saw across the Federation to de-stink the Kelvin new track. No, there's not. But the thing is, that may be a pocket universe where even that Spock may have been from somewhere else, since that movie makes no sense. And also something that people give me a lot of flack for, the trap in movie 2 of TNG. But that's down the road. Anything else you want to tell us about what you know?
So where are we chronologically at this point? What year is it?
We're reaching about the point of Sumner Redstone's out of the picture. The company is now trying to sell itself. It is divided and will in 10 years reunite. We're somewhere in the middle there. And there's no Trek.
Yeah, because you know, here's the thing. They almost sold like 10 times over, but Sherry Redstone would not, like, she didn't want the company, but she didn't want it broken up. And so she insisted on selling it as a whole piece. And they must have
the movie thing at the very end.
Yeah, they must have turned down like, it seems like an offer a month. We were hearing was rejected by Sherry Redstone, who had they had a split tier stock where most of the stock was not actually voting shares. She had the majority of the voting shares. So even though they had Class B stock, hers was all Class A, so she could block anything she wanted to, and she wasn't shy about doing it.
That's more details than I had, but I believe it. We just know that she had the hammer and was more or less like 55% in control, say, like not in danger of having it wrested away. Okay, so as this company is going around moribund for a moment, you know, remember, the intent of everyone is that this company moves on. She just has a different vision of it. She's an older lady. She's older than Kathleen Kennedy, right? Sherry Redstone, I think, is like 80 now, right? So
she's older than that. She was legacy focused. She wanted the company to stay together, and everybody wanted to buy bits and parts and part it out, and she wouldn't have
breaking it up too much. She did have to sell off the movie thing. I think Sumner did that, though. Here's the deal. Shari Redstone believed in a form of feminism that doesn't offend any of us. Probably we would call it TNG era or before feminism. Like, she's just a normal person. So she likes Star Trek to a degree, and she had no hostility towards it. And also, she was the daughter of a wealthy man. So what she did was, she got educated, and no shame, no shade. She went to school and got some business acumen, and she had an idea that we will keep. Hey, Gavin, it's good to see you. Blackie's here. It's good to see you. Like, she had an idea that from a business point of view was maintainable. So for like 8 or 9 years, she's like entertaining ideas, not liking what she hears, etc. And that's when Kurtzman sort of creeps in during the 2008 strike, right? As this it's early in the process, but it's part of that process. He gets the Hawaii 5-0 thing. That's on against Monday Night Football, and he has 4 co-writers, all of whom are assumed to be better than him. I think, Roberto Orci and Akiva Goldsman. Yeah. Orci's passed, right? So we'll leave him alone. RIP on him. For all we know, he was like why some of those Kurtzman things flew.
Yeah, he was really the creative,
I think he was the stop guy, like, no, not 3 machine gun fights, just 2.
I'm grudgingly respecting Kurtzman's ability to get stuff made and produce stuff, but the real creative partner there was Roberto Orci, and he was the one. If you saw anything good with Kurtzman's name on it, it was because of Roberto Orci. It wasn't because it's the same with the it's the same with the Druckmann from The Last of Us. He was not the creative force behind there. And whenever a partnership gets split, we always seem to be stuck with the hack partner instead of the good one.
Ask New York Met fans about that one. Oh, yeah. You're from Atlanta. You should know.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Oops. I forgot to ask you if that was tellable. Sorry. Oops. We doxed him within like 1,700 square miles of where he might possibly be.
I've said it on air before. There's like 5 million people in the metro area. It doesn't really narrow me down much. And I'm outside of that. So
that's why I'm not afraid to say I live in Queens. First of all, if you dare come here.
Hey, is AOC your rep?
We call her AOC because it's just more Star Trek. But what happened was a long time ago, for a little while, she did represent my district, and I am an original signatory for the AOC to Congress thing. But listen to why. She ran as a strong anti-Pelosiist and then went back on her promise the first week. She replaced a guy called Crowley. He had been in for 10 straight terms, and he was Pelosi's little bitch. And what he was doing was he was willingly diverting all New York's money to San Francisco so that they could do a lot of terrible social experiments there. So his name in Queens became garbage. And when AOC said, look, I'll bring our money back to us, and also I'm not going to listen to Pelosi the way this guy does, he's her little bitch, we were like, we can't get a rational Republican, because remember, the New York Republican Party rejected Trump and selected George Soros. George Santos. Sorry.
Yeah, boy, that turned out to be messed up, huh?
If they had just done a Google search like you and I would do, like, on like an interesting YouTuber or something, like they would have known. It's like, there is no Anthony DeVolder. What the fuck? No, there is no George Santos. What the fuck? So that's the kind of stuff we deal with here in New York. It's really unfortunate. To give you an idea of what happened recently, the commie would not have won if the Republican had listened to Trump. The Republican asked Trump to get out of the race. Trump, rather, asked the Republican to get out of the race.
Yeah.
Trump asked Sliwa several times to get out of the race. And this doesn't give anything away either, but my dad was NYPD. He was a detective back in the day. He knew Sliwa. He was like, he is the most dishonest idiot I have ever met. So the New York Republican Party just has a lot of fucking problems. So be that what it may. Let's rewind this a little bit back to Star Trek. I'll take a page from Trev Retro's book, but we've gone a bit far afield. Let's bring it back to Star Trek. So here we are in this time, right as JJ is doing the end of Lost. Before Lost ends, but after its fate is sealed, he gets the Star Trek deal, right? So the Star Trek movie comes out like weeks or months after that Lost ending, where the ending is interpretive. Do you remember that garbage?
Yeah,
I didn't watch it. I just was aware of it. I watched The Sopranos. It was on at the same time. Like, why you would watch Lost?
Yeah, they. I have a sense when a show's going nowhere. So, I mean, I did start watching it, but I abandoned it much earlier than that. So I didn't feel taken advantage of.
I think just really quick, Susan, what you're saying here, I think you have Santos confused of New York confused with DeSantis of Florida, because Santos he had no say over that. He's not getting into Disneyland with anything but a ticket.
Yeah.
Or maybe to play one of the princesses in the Pride Parade. Who knows? Disneyland, my God. You know, I live in New York City, and we have a gay Pride Parade, but like they like have signs saying like keep your children away. Like we want to just like do our thing, and the city has like a wall of cops. Like you might not want to go in there, but you have the freedom to. You know. And
George Santos is like a completely fictional character resume that got elected to Congress. He was
most
a
of it
total
came
fraud.
from his opponent's resume. He cut and pasted his opponent's resume. That's a fact. Like he became like a gay, whatever. I think he was already gay, but like he copied all the guys' bona fides and all of his like academic degrees. He just found like parallel respected universities. It's like, oh, he has a Columbia degree. Well, I have one from Cornell and the same thing. Okay.
You got to give him credit for kind of ballsy, you know, just the sheer brazenness of it.
Did you ever see when they introduce him to run for the seat and the guy's like, George, wait, who the fuck? Anthony, why? We're waiting for George Santos, Anthony. Go. Hold on. And like he covers his mic and he goes, all right, I know this guy is Anthony DeVolda, but he's telling me that he's George Santos and that he won this nomination. So I don't know. Here's a guy I know is Anthony. And by the way, that was in a town I once lived in called the Queens Republican Party's headquarters in Queens Village, where they nominated him. And they gave him Ayok's old territory, but then they chopped part of it out and gave it to like just some person who wasn't from the moon. So Ayok now only has represented the Bronx for a super long time. She might have some tiny piece of Queens, but it's not mine anymore. But we had Santos for a minute, and then the redistricting we ended up with now we have just some run of the mill person. And I don't want to be too specific, because if I name like 4 district changes, people will find me. You know what I mean? So now we just have some run-of-the-mill person, but Ayok, I did sign her petition to run against an even worse person, I guess is the end of that one. Which, what are you going to choose your poison in New York? It's a one-party town. One of the lawsuits that they won against Cuomo, who was also sort of responsible for the Mom Dammy thing, was that he gerrymandered the state to the point where the Republicans had to be given a district that was going to go red. That's the Santos district. They didn't spend like $500 checking out the candidates. That's the level. So like when they say New Yorkers are all Democrats and woke, it's more like we are so scared of the level of ineptitude we've seen here by our local Republican Party since our 4-term Republican governor who would have gotten elected again and just retired to run for president and it didn't work out. We had a guy called Pataki who no one had a problem with.
I remember Pataki.
He was like a less inept George W. Bush. All right, let's bring this back.
Yeah, we're getting far afield again.
I wanted to explain. You know what, Meb Jabby is just on my mind. It makes me insane.
I bet.
You know, I can't wait for the Food Collective to open up. But getting back to Star Trek. So now what happens is JJ approaches. There's no one there really except Shari Redstone. They're like, we have a profitable Star Trek movie. And he's like, yeah, of course, I'll give you the Star Trek you want. So they give him this thing based on his success with Lost. It looks like he knows what he's doing. He also has Felicity and Alias. So it's looking, and regarding Henry as the writer. So it looks like he's a genius and Spielberg loves him. So on paper, it's a good hire. And we don't find out till later how bad it is. But what happens is with the Trek 09 movie, I don't know about you, but the first time I saw it was in IMAX. So I wrote off not being able to understand it. It overwhelmed my head. It was just too much rapid fire bullshit. And then I went to see it in a 2D screen and I realized that it was as bad as I thought. And from like, I almost walked out. I stayed till the end to know how bad it was, but I hated Trek 09 from the beginning. And I hated J.J. Abrams as a filmmaker from everything after 16 millimeter.
Yeah, I liked the movie for about 20 minutes while I was watching it. It fooled me because it was so frenetic and there was a lot of action and stuff was happening. But by the time we all got back to our car in the parking lot, we're like, that was a piece of shit that made no sense. Like,
Yeah,
But
once you start to question something, a rapid fire series of events takes you out of being able to question it. And then when it slows down again for a second, you have two sets of questions and the movie has to go even faster. And then it just, J.J. Abrams movies don't end, they stop.
yeah, and they don't answer questions, they just ask them. And you know, me being basically an engineer, when they started talking about red matter, I'm like, what in the heck's going on here? And then
you being basically an idiot had the same reaction, so it was bad.
yeah, you know, and then with the whole, you know, warp speed it just like, oh, and the fact that it takes them 5 minutes to get from Earth to Vulcan. I'm like, okay, we're going full on. I like Star Wars, so don't get me wrong, the OG. But Star Wars is not science fiction. It's space fantasy. A couple other words for it. Some people call it soft sci-fi. But that's accurate. Both of them are accurate. And they both Star Trek Through the Vulcans and Star Wars has soft magic. It's not super hard. It wasn't supposed to be resurrection magic. Yeah, but Star Trek is extrapolative. Like everything they do has some kind of foundation with what we know about science. Star Wars, they just make stuff up because they want to do that, and it's cool. And this was way Star Warsified, if I can use that as a term. And nothing was really based on scientific extrapolation. So, first thing I notice is that this Star Trek was losing the hard science element that it grew from. With, you know, real science fiction writers like Harlan Ellison and...
Right. And very little trace of Gene.
Or the other Gene Kuhn or Gene Roddenberry and Joe Trumbull. And
if anything, we got a movie that was about the worst episodes of season 3. It's like only episode they watched was Elaine of Troyes and like, you know, Patterns of Force, and like, okay, body horror, throw that in, let's go.
Oh, and I do want to say, for those who are constantly accusing us of being istaphobic, which is obviously my name, nerds knew that DC Fontana was Dorothy and was a woman even back then, and she was accepted as an exceptionally gifted science fiction writer.
Cherished.
We had no problem with her.
Cherished. When we saw that name on screen, we're like, we're getting a good story. This is going to be a good episode. I better go like refill my beverage and really pay attention. This is going to be good.
Yes, unfortunately, it was not, and it only got worse from there.
Well, when DC Fontana was involved, it was good, but yes. So what happens is there's no Star Trek, and they're like, we've got the Lost guy. He's going to make you a Star Trek movie. And JJ, before we get into anything else, gets a fresh movie license. So now there's a third Star Trek license, a movie license that's on the shelf because they're not crazy, right? They don't want him taking the whole thing, and they want legal distinction from him, and they don't want him to. One of the things that he left Star Trek for Star Wars for was that the merchandise in Star Trek was real locked down because they're around before Star Wars, and they were the first merch franchise after, say, Planet of the Apes. It was like a rough tie.
Yeah. Now, before we end the stream, make sure we circle back on that merchandise license because there's been a lot going on in the last year with that.
You know what? I have a notepad now in StreamYards, and I can put a note in there that says merch license.
Yeah,
I've got that written down now.
Yeah, as soon as Paramount Skydance merged, they consolidated Star Trek back, and they really raised the price of licensing it. So most of the licensees are sort of small independent companies. They couldn't afford to pay it, so they all dropped out. There's only a few big licensees like Lego that are still paying them.
The Lego Enterprise D was $400.
Yeah, but we've lost the people that like made the cool Starfleet jackets and that woman who made the exquisite Star Trek paintings. They can't afford to stay on board now. So
that is really too bad. The thing is, the Star Trek licensing had gotten so low because they themselves devalued it. One of the things that was keeping Secret Hideout in the money was their contract with Eagle Moss, the model company, was so onerous that the Eagle Moss people were like, we made 10,000 of your Enterprise J models. No one wants any more. And they're like, contracts for 100,000. They're like, if we make that, we'll go broke. And they're like, the contracts for 100,000. So they broke that company financially, seized its assets. And whenever you buy something from that, like, they don't care that it's deeply discounted. They got everything. They gutted their own support system, though. Like, a smart franchise doesn't do that. It's sort of see happening in Star Wars now too.
One of the concerns with CBS when they were doing All Access is that people were sniffing around looking to buy the company for a bargain, and they felt like they needed to bolster their properties. It didn't matter if they made money. It was like warm bodies, chess pieces on the board, and having Star Trek going from one television show to 5 plus a series of movies really made them look better on paper. And now all of a sudden they have all these merchandising licenses. Even if they're not worth anything, they kind of look like they're, I mean, some of it's the Hollywood math. CBS once claimed they were the most watched network in the world because they combined their broadcast stuff with cable stuff and All Access and Showtime, and they never had to split out the numbers. So they're like 33 million people watch our network and it's that Hollywood accounting thing. So one of their goals, one of the reasons they made so much Star Trek and why they liked Kurtzman is he could get it done. They didn't care that the shows were crappy. They didn't care that nobody watched them because they didn't have to publish the ratings. They didn't have to publish subscriber numbers. They did it all in aggregate, and they made everything look much bigger and much more successful than it in reality was.
Okay, so this is where what you have heard diverges from our research. Now, we're going to be frank here. All of us are friends. I love Istaphobos, and we have a lot of mutual friends. This is where we get into Admiral Teague's speculation. It's informed speculation. I got a couple of sources, and like everyone else, I cannot pull out a contract. I'll cite as much as I can anytime you call me out on this one, and I'll also try to disclose as I go so it makes sense. So here comes the real tangled part. So I'll unfold it little by little, and I'll give everyone a little chance to react, and I'll keep checking the chat to see if everyone's still on board with us. Welcome to the most interesting intellectual property class you're going to ever have. All right, so the Kurtzman deal comes with a company that's been trying to sell itself in various iterations for 8 to 10 years, according to the eccentricities of a wealthy but, duly, not, falsely, but duly entitled woman, who had a right to have a vision of what she wanted for her father's company, and maybe, had some, paternalistic feelings towards things like Star Trek and stuff like that, right? So she wants to make a Star Trek movie that's profitable, but of course she's not a movie maker. And they're like, look, J.J. Abrams knows what he's doing. Let's write him another movie license. Let's keep it fresh. So because our people are still very professional, right? So she's like, all right. So she gives him he gets his movie license. His movies are what they are. We know the path. At the same time, the deal was, my friend Kurtzman will make you TV shows. We had thought there were supposed to be JJ shows. There were always supposed to be Kurtzman shows. So the Kurtzman shows, what happens is the first movie, the fans of Star Trek feel how they feel about it. The second movie, we know massive disengagement by fans, people walking out. The third movie was something of an improvement on the first two. Not great, but less bad, which is still not a case to go spend your money. So everyone just skipped Star Trek Beyond. And honestly, if Star Trek Beyond had been the first movie they made and, never had JJ involved, Simon Pegg was on a repairable course that was better than what JJ did. He inherited too much damage to save it, and the movie was bad. So that's where we go with the movies. But Star Trek Beyond, that's a fresh movie license. And the Star Trek TV license, the rights holders of the original show were like, we're not in this anymore. We have our 5 shows. They're all good. We don't want anything to do with any more speculation. We have deals. We have income. This is very dependable. In fact, what we have is TV's equivalent of a perfect orange tree grove. We know when the orange trees will grow, how much water to put on them, and how big the oranges will be, and how many we'll have. It's always perfect weather. People will always want our orange juice, and we're always going to make money. And as the price of living goes up, the cost of the orange juice will go up, and we'll always have we're not parting with these perfect oranges. Does make sense?
Yeah, and I will want to point. I don't think my information's contradictory. It's just later in the day. This wasn't why they brought him on board initially. This had more to do with the 2021 extension. After he sort of got Discovery done.
Well, he was always going to be part of it because he is a writer on the last on those Kurtzman on those Kelvin movies. Okay, and he's primary writer on the worst one, Into Darkness, which is and by the way, you rewatch those movies now, and we realize that's a beta test for destroying everything with wokeness.
Yeah. Oh, and here's a little tidbit that a lot of people don't know. Alex Kurtzman's father-in-law was James Nicholas Counter III, a labor attorney and the long-standing president of the Alliance and Motion Picture and Television Producers, and was their chief negotiator for the major studios during the 2008 writer's strike. So Kurtzman, he's not just a dude, he is an extremely well-connected dude with very powerful in-laws.
Okay, you know what? I didn't know that part. I'm going to take it at face value. Here's what I do know. Kurtzman's begins with television hands-on with Xena. And he gets that because Xena films in New Zealand and no one wants any part of it. He's one of...
Sorry.
I didn't think it was the worst show. So the episode, listen, his episodes are the worst of Xena. There are Xena episodes that he's not in. They're fun. There are fun Xena episodes, and Xena can be enjoyable.
That was a great show to watch while you were getting pre-drunk and getting ready to go out and party.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like slam a few beers and maybe shots before you hit the bars, so you're already loose. Maybe eat something.
Stupid. It was on after Baywatch at like between the 7 to 10 p.m. on Saturday nights in New York.
And I gotta say,
party night.
It was a Hercules spinoff, and that was the dumbest show in the world, but those guys had charisma and they were funny, and it was just something you could watch when nothing else was on. Yeah, right. This was, we were still basically slaves to the broadcast schedule at this point, so.
You scoff at it till you see Sam Raimi and you're like, wait, Evil Dead guy? Okay, I'll check this out. It's probably going to be fun. And it was. Was it the most serious TV ever? No. But the thing is, Xena films in New Zealand because of Lucy Lawless's location. She hadn't relocated to the U.S. yet, right? I don't think she does that till she falls in love and marries one of Raimi's guys. But so they're going to do it in New Zealand because she had fame there too, so they could get her for a little less, right? So she's being famous in New Zealand, and they're filming down there. And Kurtzman was willing to go down there and live in New Zealand and deal with it, and he produces a bunch of those episodes. His next thing is Transformers Prime, where he just basically transposes the comic book into a cartoon. Then he does Hawaii Five-0 with, again, he's got Goldsman and Orsi with him, so he's able to cover his lack of talent. But Hawaii Five-0 was a pretty bad show, as were its spin-offs, Magnum and the other show, whatever it was. Wasn't there MacGyver part of that same universe?
The new one, not the old one, but remember there's a Star Trek connection here because Xena spun off from Hercules, and Kevin Sorbo has a very strong Gene Roddenberry connection with Andromeda.
We watched that with Germ's channel. He's a huge Andromeda fan.
And remember, this was before the internet really took off. It was definitely before smartphones and dating apps. So when your girlfriend was watching Kevin Sorbo on the TV, she was just getting warmed up and not trying to DM him and get a plane ticket out to California is how that crap happens now. So it was a good thing. You could put
Kevin
on Hercules.
Was the early version of the remote control keychain that got the car warmed up for you. No one else was going to drive it. You still had the keys.
Exactly. They were eye candy and they were non-threatening because the actual possibility didn't exist. Nowadays, all bets are off. But I'm just saying, those were fun shows. And they were many times a prelim to a very good evening for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And watching Baywatch would, put anyone in a good mood. So let's go back to Star Trek for a minute here. As all this is happening, the Star Trek picture going on is that Kurtzman shows up. He has the goodwill of, he's delivered on time on the Hawaii Five-0 show for 11 straight years, but he has those 4 or 5 people working with him. They know how to hold back his worst instincts, calm him down, and get a show done. But that show, nothing to be proud of. All exposition done during a machine gun car chase. A car chase or a machine gun fight, not just one or the other, both had to be happening for all exposition. And like no vehicle scarring, really third rate. Hello, Gap After Dark. It's good to see you here. It's a bad show, and for 17 weeks, no one watches it because it's Monday Night Football. And what is there, one Monday Night Football playoff game? So 18, 19, maybe 20 weeks, there's Monday Night Football with preseason and all that crap. So there's only like 6 or 7 weeks where the show's on without protection, so to speak. So that show is a deceptive success. It does well for a show that's expected to get hammered and destroyed, and did maybe okay in reruns because women thought the cast were hot, and husbands were like, all right, machine guns and cars, I don't care. My wife let me watch football. She was a football widow all year watching this show, and now she's in love with James Caan's son. I'll let her watch it. And like watching Scott Caan try to act on that was sad. I felt so bad for him. But so that's where all these things about his reputation come from. All those things are now stripped away except for his lineage, which, what have you done for me lately in Hollywood? So we had said in 24 that we would find out about now that he was done, and we still don't know for sure, but it sure does look like it. Like where there's smoke, there's fire, and like at Secret Hideout, it is just shrouded in smoke. And this is where all our information starts to coalesce, and we have the overlaps, and we'll figure this one out. So the first look deal is what we heard he has had since his extension a while back, 4 or 5 years ago, right around the time that they were dumped off of not just Netflix as Discovery, but Netflix entirely without them announcing it to their fans and it just disappearing. And then Netflix being forced to explain and Kurtzman going out there and lying. That's, all can be found. So history of deception. Rumor is that they had kept reoffering it to Netflix after a no way. The reason why Netflix totally didn't want it is what we heard before it went to arbitration was they were saying it wasn't Star Trek. It's hard to find those articles now. Mainstream media kind of got together and got rid of them, but it's still out there. You can find a breadcrumb trail of, and that still comes up today. It's not Star Trek. The bottom line is we know there was an 8-year contract with Netflix to do most of the paying, and they got out of it in 3 with no buyout. One rumor was the show was written so badly on purpose as to trigger the buyout to make 8 years pay in 1 year and go work on something else. And to blame the fans as like Istaphobic. So when I hit you with that one, I know that's one that you've had a reaction to. So go ahead.
Yeah, no. So one of my primary sources for, what I think I know is from Jonathan Lane, who was... He's a Hollywood author. He wrote a couple of Star Trek reference books, Starship Spotter. He was one of the coordination writers for the Star Trek video game. And he's also, let's see, he runs he also did Avalon Universe, Stalled Trek, Prelude to Axed We Are, which is way too punny to be a good title. And also the author of the Star Trek game show in 1998. So,
say his name again?
Jonathan Lane.
I got it right when I put it down there. So here's his, he's got a memory alpha. I'm just going to drop it in the chat so people, if they want to take a look at it. You should look at it later, though, because watching my show without turning off the browser is so important. I'm going to show you my phallus. The camera's going on and the phallus comes out. We do all sorts of weird stuff here. Go ahead.
And he was the one that brought up a really important point that I never considered, is that Alex Kurtzman, like it or not, he has a very strong reputation of being very easy to work with. And somebody once told me, do not underestimate how that fact alone, how far that will get you in Hollywood. And
it did work for him. It did work for him. The thing is, his easy to work with seems to have come out on screen with vamp it. And like, it seems like he's easy to work with, but the real truth is, this is my take on the easy to work with thing. I think that he throws a lot of lines to the actors and lets them vamp because he is himself too talentless to be able to write them. And that when they vamp, he is unable to judge whether the wordplay or the pun is any good because they're not a writer, they are an actor. So we get things like in Section 31, God's End. Is it God's End or God Send? Yeah. And it's like, that is, or in Strange New Worlds, Enterprise. And it's like, who the hell even thought that was wordplay? So yeah, it's really brutal.
The other thing about him,
Wallace. I'm sorry. We'll just say hello quickly to the great Soyman Gohan as well, and to Radioactive Actual, and anyone I might have missed. I'm just looking. I think I got everyone for now. I'm sorry if I missed anyone. Okay, so continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, like the executives, they don't watch this stuff. They don't read the fan mail or anything. But Kurtzman has a reputation for being very accommodating with studio notes, which is another reason why the money guys absolutely love him. And I'll give him this. He's a good businessman. He's written some very airtight contracts. He's gotten some excellent deals. And apparently, he's just good at the nuts and bolts of putting shows together. He's good at, finding the studio space, getting the props built. Stuff. Yeah. He's like a producer in the most, functional, hands-on sense. He gets stuff done. And if you need product, this guy will get it done, and he can do multiple things at the same time and not get lost. Don't expect
it to be too good. Well,
no.
There's the thing. He will get lost because the story will not make sense. But
yeah.
He will deliver
absolutely.
you a 40-minute show. Here's where things get crazy for Star Trek. Unless there's more to your point, you could
just one thing. All completely independent of any quality of the show. Yeah, absolutely. But he gets it done. He gets it out. He gets the cast, the makeup, the props built, the studio space rented, and he's very good at business. He's very good at doing things efficiently, sharing props, using the technology, buying something, then renting it out so it'll pay for itself, that kind of thing. So he'll rent out the Star Trek studio in between filming so they can pull in. He's just very efficient, and none of this has anything to do with the quality of his product. But
we had heard he was very desperate because what happens is when Netflix wins in arbitration, which we know they did because there wasn't 5 more seasons of Star Trek Discovery, let alone 5 more to make a total of 8 on Netflix, right? So we know they won. They announced that they didn't have to pay the buyout. And so what happened was then the fan blaming begins in earnest. That reputation of being able to get anything done, that comes after being tagged as a bloated mess who couldn't make the money show up on screen. Also, what you said is very true about how it was hidden and we couldn't see it. There was another work stoppage. There was another need to put product on TV. Shows like Yellowstone got edited and put on regular TV. They put the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery on CBS. I think it was actually to launch CBS All Access. And the drop off from episode 1 to episode 2 was just abysmal. The Vulcan hello was the worst way to reintroduce people to Star Trek. And when they did bring it back later, so the planned and promoted one goes terrible. And then when they plugged it in, when they didn't have anything a couple of years later, they showed some more of Star Trek Discovery. And this can be verified. Grok could probably help you find the link, which you could then run down. I'm not saying take Grok's word for it. Use Grok to do the research.
But boy, the critics loved it, and
very deceptive. For, but yes,
yeah, absolutely shills.
And remember, there's not YouTube as we know it yet. Doomcock is in his infancy. This show is so bad that it's going to make independent critics huge. So the show comes out to no independent critics, and remember, these are the same people who have minimal independent criticism. And these are the same people who got away with Lost by being able to very easily spin opinion on what the internet was then, AOL. So they get, for Star Trek TV, there is yet another license. The Kurtzman verse New Trek license is not related to the Kelvin or the OG movie or the OG TV license. The Kelvin movie license was active, but they couldn't get a movie made, right? The Kurtzman shows were late, and Star Trek Beyond was the first draft of the Kurtzman shows mashed up into a movie where the cast, the budget, and the sets were mandated to be used by Simon Pegg.
Yeah, and I want to just make sure to make a distinguishing distinguish here. The rights to Star Trek have always been held by Paramount and CBS Viacom. Licenses are temporary things that they lease or sell out to give other people permission to make it. But the rights to Star Trek have always been held. Well, they split between CBS and Paramount when that Viacom split happened. Now they're back in one entity. So nobody else has the rights. It's all been through temporary licensing.
Almost 100% correct. Almost 100% correct, because here's one thing. You are right about... actually, I'm going to give it to you. 100% correct. However, the fragmented corporation before the first fragmentation wrote the JJ license that leads to New Trek as we know it now, right? So that's a 2008 deal. The world changed 3 times since then, people. So these are 2008 people, and if you look at their product, it's these are people who went to college in the 90s. Watch Section 31 and tell me that's you get any other impression. But so now this fragmented corporation is fusing itself back together, and we've got no movies have come out, but the Kelvin movies that start coming out after, while they're separate, when they refuse the corporation, they don't bother explaining anything. And in fact, Kurtzman goes out there and starts actively lying. It sounds like after the first CBS never had to give them a lot of money. We know that. Their thing was you could have the rights. The way it seems that they got out of it as far as the Netflix end of this deal would be, they did prove to an arbitrator this isn't Star Trek. Checkable is the lawsuit, not the arbitration. All Hollywood contracts have a clause in them written in that you have to get taken out. If you don't have it in there, it's not standard, and it would be remarkable. All Hollywood contracts, clause 1, in the case of any breach or inability to fulfill this contract, arbitration that is binding will be first. This is secret and has the weight of a judgment. Binding arbitration and a judgment are the same thing. It's just that all arbitration is sealed in secret, all court stuff open in public. Got me?
Yeah, and it's just the arbitration judge. There's no jury. There's no judge.
He's an arbitrator. Yeah, he has the power of a judge, though. He's an industry insider.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
He has to have a certain amount of years of industry experience to be appointed an arbitrator. And so it would be someone like Gene L. Kuhn would be your arbitrator. You know what I mean? Like a retired Gene L. Kuhn is the kind of person who would arbitrate a dispute. It's like, Love American Style has the right to 2% of the Happy Days money for 5 years, and that's it. Something like that. So
and the arbitrator usually, if you're an individual, you can't sue AT&T, you've got to go to arbitration. It's almost always going to favor the company because that's how that works.
Now, when 2 companies arbitrate, an interesting dynamic comes in. What happens is there's an overriding thing that's considered to protect both companies. Get this. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but there's a universal commercial code. When contracts fall apart, they default mostly to that and something called the statute of frauds, also Googleable. But what usually happens in America is when 2 companies go into business together, usually there's no contracts. If you own a dairy and I own a store, and you sell eggs and milk to me, and wait, hold on a second. Let me just thank She is back. Hello, RRTNZ. Hail, everyone. I've returned to the arse end of the earth. The toilet's flushing more
clockwise-y.
In a way that's more pleasing to the eye. Although, as arsens go, it's more Jessica Alba. That's quite an arse. Extremely well formed and pleasant to look at. Very pleasant indeed. Definitely not Ozempic Ariana Grande. Cheers! Thank you, RRTNZ, for the 10 New Zealand dollar super chat. Brain, turn on.
Oh, you should have asked him if the toilets flush Widdershins.
I want to know what the toilet flushing looks like at the equator.
It just goes straight down.
That's got to be weird, right? It's like what's it like to be a plumber in Ecuador? It's like, see, no torque, senor. The El Turdes, they don't get broken up by the torque. American plumbers, they have it so easy. That's why we have to eat soft food down here. But thank you very much for RRTNZ, who we've been calling him Welshie after the Futurama character from their Star Trek episode. So we're trying to put Star Trek back together again. We have discordant movie and TV, and Kurtzman has this deal where Netflix is supposed to pay. Now, remember, now we've gone into way overtime. If this was a hockey game, it's like third period of overtime, period 6 of the game. And it's a playoff game. We're going to play until someone wins, and there's a game tomorrow at 7 p.m. no matter what, unless this one's still going. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to go till it's over. So we've got leftover contracts, headaches, and hangovers. And CBS and other people Netflix gets out of this through arbitration, and the arbitration with Netflix lines up with U.S. business arbitration, which the idea is we don't want to put workers out of work. We don't want to close down businesses. We want to preserve everyone's business. So here's how an arbitrator would look at this. You sell me eggs and milk from your farm, but Germ walks into my store and has better eggs and better milk for less money. He's closer and he can give me more for less money. I'm loving Germ, and I take a contract from him and I fire you. Now, you would say you probably are fucked, right? In this hypothetical? You're not. That's right. Okay, so what do you know about this one?
Well, you go ahead and finish your
okay, so the Universal Commercial Code in any arbitration in any court would almost definitely default to, we're going to preserve all of these businesses by doing this. You are obligated to fulfill your implied contract through what is a business operation where you keep accepting these trucks full of eggs from Istaphobos. You keep accepting this milk from Istaphobos. You're selling it, obviously, and you're thriving. Okay, so you've got a new contractor. That's fine, but you're going to destroy Istaphobos unless you give him time to find a new market for his company. And you know what? You may still have to do business with Germ while you do it. This may be the end of you, and everyone might have to sit down and work something else out on their own because, you know what? We're not ready to make this binding arbitration yet, but here's my arbitration. You guys think about it. The decision usually is 3 months business or 3 business cycles, right? So if it was a dairy farm, would be like 3 months or 3 years. You get what I'm saying? 3 business cycles. So with Netflix, most of this is from Tom Connors. That's my source. I've gone to him over and over and got it re-verified. Tom, if I got you wrong, I apologize. Everybody, tweet at Team YouTube on behalf of Midnight's Edge and watch the other Midnight's Edge and coordinate to get Tom brought back. They always had this deal where he sort of got the money from Netflix. Once Netflix got out of this and they didn't get their golden parachute, and they didn't, the proof of this would be the substantial changes in the way they did Star Trek Discovery every year, because the story is Netflix rejects it on first look. And they're like, we want out of this. So think about what this could have done to the streaming wars if Kurtzman won. Netflix might not be Netflix. You know what I mean? They might have crippled them. So Netflix starts fighting for their lives against Kurtzman, and they throw everything they can at it. At the same time that the one thing we can look into, the Tartophobe video game lawsuit, happens. In the Tartophobe video game lawsuit, the final disposition was to stop the trial because the Star Trek lawyers financially broke the other lawyer. But the other lawyer the lawyer for the independent video game guy was unable to prove that there was any story to the show, so that you cannot prove that you stole his story if the show itself didn't have enough story to be called a story. And that was the safest legal ground for Star Trek. So think about what you said about Kurtzman and how he has all this great legal stuff and he'll win any lawsuit. So he's like, hell, I'll win this lawsuit. And if CBS sues me, I'll win one against them. And he's still reeling from the first ever defeat in his life from Netflix. And we know from his actions, he never accepts it. He keeps reoffering the show for less and less and less and less. So that's what goes down. He gets his 3 business cycles from Netflix. Then he doesn't tell anybody because he seems to have been in denial. Now, that's obviously, we can't read his mind, but he seems to be in denial. And while that's going on, he tries to do a new Netflix deal. Now he has no money. The story is he goes to the Democratic voter base. And that's when things really get insane on Star Trek Discovery. Now, remember, he's pals with JJ. JJ gets the wokeism from what should have been a Chad move that you and I would have gone to town on. He is among the first graduating class that accepted men at Vassar. I'm sorry, at Sarah Lawrence University in Bronxville, New York, which is a well-regarded New York area school. Did you know that?
Yeah. Let me point out here though that Netflix arbitration, it was a little bit surprising. And when I say Kurtzman's good at business, I just mean his agreements with CBS were very, very much well in his favor. And he just knows how to make stuff done, all aspects of business, not just the contracts. So
absolutely. And let's remember, he may have been pushing the envelope because he hadn't failed. So
yeah, well, you know, with Netflix arbitration between two companies, they're very good at splitting the baby, but he didn't have much of a baby to begin with, which is why I think this sort of cut out in Netflix's favor, because I think it was pretty clear Netflix didn't get anything close to what they thought they were paying for.
And here, listen to this: rumors of friendly testimony helping Netflix from the Roddenberrys because they thought it was shit. Because after Magil dies, Rod Roddenberry has an epiphany. And remember, we get unification from him as an apology, so there is a feeling of guilt and responsibility there.
Yeah, I just love the fact that, no, you don't really have a story, so they couldn't have stolen it from you. That's priceless.
Because the tardigrade is in 19th century science fiction by H.G. Wells.
Yeah, the retardigrade, you mean?
Oh, God, yeah. His matagrade. It was the stupidest plot device ever. And when they set it free, I almost got sick. Germ, did you even drop in on Star Trek Discovery long enough to see that?
I've done a good job of forgetting all that.
Germ is like my Ed McMahon. He puts us back on the rails and tells me when I'm being too insane. That's how we managed to pull off so many great interviews in a row. This is incredible. When was the last time we didn't have a guest? We had Neural Derp. Do you know who that is? Last week?
Is that the guy that makes the brilliant AI videos?
Yes. He was never Redneck Stargate is before.
Yeah, Redneck Stargate is like one of the best things I've ever seen.
J. Michael Straczynski, he says, reached out to him over that.
Oh, wow.
J. Michael Straczynski also pinned it to the top of his X. That's in our interview with Neural Derp. Then later that week, he was really cool, and he makes a bunch of great Trek and other videos of sci-fi, and he talked of his love of sci-fi and how he got it, his love of Star Trek, and like what's your process? And he's like, I just live in the redneck Riviera, and I watch Star Trek, and I'm like driving from my job to my home, and like 40 guys in a biker gang will ride past me, and all I can think is Klingons. He was great. We loved meeting Neural Derp. He had never been live on YouTube before, and he had 1.8 million views that week.
Wow, that's fantastic. The replicators being the lawnmowers, just like about had to pull myself off the floor.
He's a really great he beta tests his comedic songs until he gets the perfect one. He mostly writes them, right? The prompts, just smooth it out. Like, we're talking deeply sophisticated prompts, and the indication we got was works in the field but doesn't want to tell us where. Like, our thought was probably does video game cutscenes. It's good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what?
Last one, the textures and the uniforms and the ropes behind them and their clothes it's real. It's like very HD.
And he knows what his audience wants. Like they are appropriately clothed and clad and unclothed and unclad.
I'd have the best tattoos. Spock covered with the chest piece. It was awesome. And I consider him a better Star Trek creator and a more legitimate Star Trek creator than JJ.
Yeah. Well, I consider the guy who mows my lawn a better Star Trek creator than JJ.
He probably is.
Yeah.
Say hello to my cousin when he's out there doing it for you. By the way, I changed my pronouns this week. I'm no longer going with Latino. It's not masculine enough. I'm Hispanic from now on.
Okay, that'll work.
Check your wallet before you leave, Istaphobos, because as a Cuban, I could probably get it out of your pocket before you ever knew.
Well, as long as you're not Somalian, because I don't want to get scammed when I leave here. So
I'm not Somalian, but I will say, as a Cuban, I can use the Star Trek line: "Where we come from, we don't have money." It's not exactly the way it was intended, but we don't.
Yeah.
But we had Neural Derp, and do you know the Tachyon Pulse? He the inceptor of so many major stories and the source of so many Star Trek rumors.
Oh yeah, is he part of that?
No, he's a different person. That we had Neural Derp one day, and then Tachyon Pulse and I have been trying to negotiate a time for him to come on, and cool. I just threw an opportunity at him. He's like, "Why not?" And he went toe-to-toe with every single critical thing we had to say to him after he agreed to. We didn't ambush him. We talked to him about what we wanted to do. Nothing was unexpected, and he was more game than we thought. He was laughing. He was saying, "Bring it on." So that one went well, too, because we would have dialed it back and said what we had to say about it, later on. We were never going to show him up or be rude to him. That's not our thing. Like we don't want to own people or be dicks. So Tachyon Pulse came on, and we were like, some of this stuff, sir, we're not sure what to make of some of these things you're saying. So, you want to tell us a little about your process, and he had a little bit of indignation about it, but, he stood his ground, and all we could say was,
Sir, that was so controversial, sir.
But what did he do? He had his controversial takes, and he's been defending them. And since we had him on, he had never live streamed on the Tachyon Pulse channel. Since he's live streamed 3 times.
Yeah, and he's got it.
He changed his life.
Yeah, he's got a Starfleet Academy reaction coming up. I'm still not sure how I'm gonna deal with that.
My prediction is that he might not hate it. He has mixed opinions of some of the new Star Trek. Like, he will defend some episodes of Strange New Worlds. Like, we like him. He's personally honorable, but we don't have the same Star Trek takes. The best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, you can you can defend it all you want, man. I am not buying what you're selling. But that was one of the things. This is one of the things that that Paramount was kind of cool with. They had a bunch of they threw a bunch of stuff against the wall. You had the Prodigy, you had a little kids cartoon, you had Lower Decks, an adult cartoon, one of the more successful shows. You had the mindless, incessant woke action fest garbage dump that was Discovery. You had Strange New Worlds, which gave a lot of people hope, but ended up being equally as mindless and stupid.
It was broken before I bothered to check it out, but when I watched those first couple episodes of Strange New Worlds, God, if they had just listened to them, I do think that as much as he's fucked it up now, that Ethan Peck could have been an okay Spock. In Ghosts of Illyria, the story sucks, but he's trying his best to be correct for the character. He really is.
Yeah, they didn't give him much to work with, and then they had Picard, so their idea was that they had something for everyone, like any Star Trek fan. But what they really didn't realize is, it's all pissing on the legacy of Gene Roddenberry, and we're not liking any of it. Although I did watch Lower Decks, it was mildly amusing occasionally.
All right, let me get some more legal lore out of the way. Now, again, we're not lawyers, and no one can see these arbitrated contracts. So, dose of salt to keep us out of jail and defamation court. Although, who knows? So, a lot's changed since these Kurtzman contracts got written. But if you look at this is the circumstantial proof for what we're saying about. We know Netflix gets out in 5 years less than they're supposed to, and Kurtzman himself kind of confirmed that they didn't get their buyout and all that other stuff, but they don't get out of there in time. It ends up being a bit of a disaster, and the Netflix thing becomes public in a way that they had not anticipated. So, did I miss a super chat? Let me just check. Okay, no, that's Ruby. When I go and look at StreamYards from StreamYards to YouTube, YouTube has a way of lagging behind while you're streaming. It falls behind you while you're streaming it by yourself. So let me try to orient myself here because this is where it gets legally crazy. Star Trek no longer has control of Star Trek. CBS does not have control of Star Trek PR. CBS does not have control of Star Trek PR. They're not allowed to make too many Star Trek statements. Rod Roddenberry has, can't really say too much. And like he's sort of locked in. He's been lucratively paid. His mom wanted the deal. He's having second thoughts as the story. And unification would seem to prove that. But as this is all falling apart for Kurtzman, we see the Star Trek product starting to erode and fall apart in ways that no one expected. So here's the licensing with Kurtzman. He keeps trying to say it's a continuation of the original Star Trek, and remember all the bitterness and division among fans. It is Star Trek. It's not Star Trek. It's a different universe. It's not a different universe. It's a continuation of the movies. It's a continuation of the other movies. He purposely sows that, and then he does We Are Starfleet, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Purging all fans who weren't so left-wing that it was insane. By the way, Istaphobos, did you hear my plan to eliminate either political party within 3 months?
No, sounds promising though.
With Alex Kurtzman in charge of their advertising and giving like $4 million to set them loose. Want to make like 4 commercials.
Yeah.
No one will ever vote for any of them again. So
now, are you saying Paramount? I know they're not doing PR, but are you saying they can't?
It's not that they can't, but they've got Kurtzman out there. They can't stop him, right? They cannot stop him. So he gets out ahead of them at this point and starts announcing one thing after another, after another, after another. Now, there are a bunch of Star Trek projects that didn't happen. And he specializes in stealing an aged out pitch, in my opinion. For instance, Star Trek Academy, which was pitched to him a really long time ago, was pitched to him by the Gossip Girl people. Okay, remember that show? So Star Trek Academy is not really the same idea that was pitched in the 90s. This is an idea that was brought to him by the Gossip Girl people. He bought the pitch and the rights, and he let the pitch age out. So now he only owns the idea by himself and doesn't have to give them all that much money, if I understand this correctly. Nothing like if they had gotten their pitch taken up. And he got the least senior person from their writing staff, their coffee boy, their Terry Metalis, and said, "You're the Starfleet Academy guy now because you were with the pitch people." And it's like, good, I hate my old boss anyway. So you've got a Kathleen Kennedy situation every time. Now, every time criticism has shaken up his writer's room, remember what's happened. And this has happened like 4 times by the time we get to this point. He fires everybody. He gets rid of more and more lore experts. He persecutes the fans more. And what does he do? He hires from fanfic writers who failed and like YA novelists who only do same-sex relationship YA novels. So that's your bench for Star Trek. And he keeps refreshing that. And he keeps hiring more women. So he's doing things that we, in a sense, we could call them Istaphobic. We could call them gender hateful.
Yeah, but he also says this time we're really going to give the fans what they want. He's such a lying.
He said that last week too. He's been saying it for a really long time.
Yeah.
At any rate, his Star Trek license is reduced to: we never had to give you the money to make the show. You have to raise the money on your own. So he raised it from the left-wing donor base and sold it to them as, ultra left-wing philosophy, and the most rabid people. The kind of people who don't hate you, dude, if you know what I'm saying. Those kind of people are the ones that were willing to, take the money they made writing poetry or whatever and, give it to the Star Trek people to make Star Trek that they then would not watch. You know what I mean? And as far as your 23 producers, I can only imagine how you end up a producer for that. Either you went to college with Kurtzman, or you're going to be a director for them and they don't want to pay you and they're only going to give you an executive producer credit. And they're like, why should I do this? And it's like, because 6 years ago you stopped getting work because you Me Too'd 3 different women, but we can make that go away if you make our woke show. So it's like they've got some hostages, they've got some, people from the in need of help pile. Everybody's working at cut rate prices. And then Kurtzman comes in thinking he's a genius and story edits this stuff. Goldsman just can't take it and leaves. Terry Metalis can't take it and at least gets a less bad but still terrible Star Trek show. It's still terrible. Don't get me started. he gets the aged out pitch for Academy. He happens to have a bigger chunk of it than he ever would have had before, if I understand this correctly. And he's paying someone who was a coffee boy to be the showrunner, and he's got a bunch of activists running it again as usual. So the Starfleet Academy thing is coming at us, and everyone's feeling like it's a terrible idea, and they still can't stop him from doing publicity. Are you familiar with what's called brand destruction? We've talked about this, and it's a very nuanced thing. All right, what's your understanding of it?
All of his stuff is straight out of the Kathleen Kennedy playbook, by the way, including, anointing the coffee guy. Well, obviously brand destruction is when you tarnish a brand to the point where it can't be saved, like, what's been happening with almost everything we love. But you can do it purposely, or it can happen through incompetence or wokeness or just really, crap production. But are you saying he is trying to destroy the brand on purpose?
Here's what I'm saying, and I'll show you some proof in a minute that you won't be able to say no to. At least you'll consider it. I'll tell you that. Here's the Tachyon Pulse. He sat through this. He was okay with it. Now he okayed it ahead of time, but he did not realize we would be sitting in front of this like with a wall, and he was like, "Oh God, my thumbnail!" But he was fun about it. They can't stop Alex Kurtzman. He's announcing projects that are really, really bad for Star Trek. And also, Germ and I are in on this for years now. The Paramount sale starts trying to go to Paramount. Now, as you recall, the last regime stopped that from happening. Remember? Sleepy man, he stopped the sale from happening. And then CBS News misbehaved during the election, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
So I'm prepared to say maybe not a coincidence. It seems, and then there's a lawsuit that someone won proving that it probably wasn't a coincidence. So we think that the Paramount sale was put on hold for that year when it was like they had the money, they had the deal done, but Hollywood doesn't want the Ellisons there because their parent company of Skydance is
not woke.
Defense contractor Oracle Computer. They're super wealthy. They have more money than Disney. A lot.
Yeah. Now that's just his dad. I'm not sure they're a parent company and corporate structure.
He's CEO and operator. The number one shareholder is the dad and him together, or just the dad. The dad's backing is there, and the dad writes whatever the son tells him to, whatever he wants to. Shared vision. It's shared.
Yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't mean the companies themselves aren't, parent and child subsidiary kind of thing. But it doesn't matter. They're owned by the same family. Yeah.
They are technically separate inside the Ellison Trust.
Here's the thing, though. We'll throw you some corroborating stories. You've probably heard this story. It was reported on WDW Pro. Here's Kurtzman's promotion. Think about this. This happened in the San Diego Comic-Con parking lot when the pitch for Star Trek United was made in another place. This was his attempt to promote Star Trek in the parking lot of the Comic-Con. Now, this was so bad and so rough that Germ and we determined that Kurtzman was denied a room inside and put this on anyway to troll Paramount. Skit in the parking lot? Listen to this. They put on this show 5 12-minute vignettes, very billable if you think about it, right? So this troupe of dancers acts out all the episodes from the last season of Strange New Worlds. So it gets stupider and stupider, but I have to keep it copyright compliant and under 5 seconds. So please forgive the choppiness. The people in the parking lot. Now remember, this probably was supposed to be inside. And they cut it. And remember, his budget has been reduced, just like everyone on Paramount is working on a shoestring at this point. This is the point where they are not able to throw enough money to Taylor Sheridan for him to make a show that makes him want to stay with them, right?
Yeah, so I just want to say real quick, I don't have a sound effect ready, but gay.
Yes, I'm not Tony, but we do sound effects. You know what? I would say if we could ask this guy who's supposed to be Pike, he would have one thing to say. He would pull out his grinder rap and yell,
Find this man.
They do a good job, these dancers. I want to be fair to them. These poor people, like when you see the dance moves, they grab the women by their knees and spin them around. Their knees are wrapped, their legs are wrapped around the guy's waist, and they're holding hands like in a traditional kind of thing, and they're spinning them, but they're spinning them over asphalt, and it looks crazy dangerous. This looks like the kind of thing that should have been scrapped and just let them keep the money. Say, we're sorry, it didn't work out. So the people walking by, they don't know whether to jeer or applaud. They're so confused, and they think it's fans. This is official. It's the people are thinking this is cosplay. Look at this. That's Spock. Look at this. This is Star Trek. This is Alex Kurtzman's vision of Star Trek. Those are Klingons, and this is official.
Yeah, to be fair, it's better than his shows.
While that is fair, think about the trauma that gives you when you walk inside and see what real franchises are doing. Think about when you walk in there and you see some of these other franchises that have it more together. When you see the display for some other movies that are coming out or some of these other sci-fi. But believe me, if you weren't going to spend a couple of minutes considering Avatar, even though you shouldn't have, after seeing that Kurtzman display, you stopped at the Avatar poster and you're like, maybe this could, and anything has to be better than what I just saw in that parking lot. So that sets the Star Trek United rumor on fire. We don't have to go too far down that road, except to say this: the Star Trek United idea has now showed up on Trek Culture, which is owned by CBS, which means CBS is officially interested and they're feeding it. He has survived 2 very difficult political interviews, one where we thought he was doomed with Mary Trump. Do you know of Mary Trump?
Yeah.
Did you know she has a Star Trek show?
I did at one point, but it's not something that I consider consciously.
Yeah, she has 3 different styles. One is to sell the show where she just talks about an episode of Star Trek that she offhand remembers. The other style is one where she promotes New Trek, and it seems to be compensated. And then the other one is you can buy a segment on her Star Trek YouTube show and just pitch your idea, or, she'll have you on if it'll help her out. So she had Sussman on, and her lore expert did most of the talking. She mostly nodded her head. There was no trashing, no invocation of Trump at all, no political questions at all. Now, Germ is much more of a political guy than I do and has a political show on his channel, so I'll let him address how he feels. This is my feeling before I hand it over to him. As someone who has political feelings but tries to keep them off the air and tries to remain neutral, because as the great American basketball player Shaquille Jordan said, even Republicans buy sneakers, sirs. But I felt that after the Mary Trump interview, and we'll get to Trek Culture next, the Mary Trump interview not being like her other political hit pieces, I felt respected, and I felt like he was very aware of what he was doing when he went in there, and I felt the respect flowed from him saying, I'm not going down some crazy torn from the headlines rabbit hole. We're talking about fucking Star Trek, or I'm not coming on. And they never asked him one question about anything political. The most current events question was, how's the weather where you are?
Yeah, except he is doing exactly that.
Well, let's put that on hold for a minute. But what's that, Germ? What was your feeling about the Mary Trump interview, and did you feel respected by his point of view on the politics? As far as no,
he is very politically savvy when it comes to the studios. I personally don't remember him ever saying anything when it comes to political, really, but he knows how to play the game very well, and
he reverse pandered.
Mary Trump,
definitely reverse pandered. He was not trying to pander to anybody. He didn't talk about the need to have strong women. He didn't even countenance the question, didn't come up. And so that he gets out of an interview with 0 damage, and that's a damaging, difficult show to watch. Germ, am I right?
Very. I was more surprised that Mary Trump was willing to play ball with him.
Which makes me wonder if CBS might have helped pay for her. But he has done a great job as a one-man publicity team. Now, you had some thoughts on what you thought his direction was. I don't think he'll be that woke because he saw what happened with All Mankind. But go ahead. Do you have any thoughts on his creative direction?
Well, I mean, all of his stuff is woke as hell. What do you mean? Oh,
let me just say, let me thank Radioactive Actual for the $2 Greenlandian super chat with the awesome pic of Kurtz. He looks like a cone head. Yeah, we did that one on purpose. It took forever to get his head that size. Thank you. I appreciate it. Radioactive Actual, thank you. Okay, so before you get going, I will say we are huge fans of his 70 episodes of Enterprise here. We really are. And we don't consider them woke. But okay, go ahead.
Oh, wait, are we still talking about Kurtzman?
No, we have moved on to the pitch. Kurtzman fucks up his bid to keep Star Trek. We think with that Comic-Con and the stuff coming out, and we know that Section 31 we feel was the last straw, and we feel like we know that because ever since then, it seems like they've only been doing their obligations to him. Now, the extortion thing that I am going to allege, and I have the right to do so as an American citizen. See how it's done on YouTube? I have the right to give my opinion. There might be something going on that maybe law enforcement or some sort of financial investigation needs to be launched on this one. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, the Star Trek United thing is our hope to return to original continuity. It'll be off the original Star Trek license, and the beauty of it is it will not be able to be affected. It's immune to lawsuits from Kurtzman because they didn't use that era in his stuff, right? He comes after it, and he's a prequel to everything. So all they have to do is just go against his lore and keep negating it, and they'll have put him into the mirror universe that he belongs in. Also, they've closed the door on that dimension in the comics. Those are official and canonical. Not that I care, but Cisco just destroyed that enterprise. That enterprise was destroyed, saving Cisco. They're all dead. In canon, and on Memory Alpha. The new Star Trek United, the worst thing we heard about it was he's thinking Andor as an inspiration, and we're thinking, no. And we also, he has started reacting and retweeting and stuff this show. So we know that we have his attention. And we thank him for paying attention to us as fans. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, like we said,
going back to Kurtzman, are there weird things afoot at the Kurtzman Circle Kurtzman, or are we going to go talk about? Okay, so it's Kurtzman. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. There's a strong rumor out, and we've talked about this a few times that Paramount Skydance gave a pretty minor league take it or leave it offer to Kurtzman because they would rather have him in the tent pissing out, but it's not all that lucrative for him. It allows him to sort of hang around and pitch anything, but it strips him away from any exclusivity, and it takes away sort of all his power to do anything without permission of the parent company. And the rumor is it's a take it or leave it thing, and this is happening right now, so we should find out one way or the other.
All right, so here's the deal. Now, beyond the shadow of a doubt and beyond the edge of reason, for a couple of years, we've been on, first look only, and we can pass. Now, here's where brand destruction, top fee, money, and greed come in. There is very good reason for everyone to believe, despite what has happened, despite why they loved him, and, to be fair, why they loved him in 2008, and why they were fooled into continuing to love him in 2018. What have you done for me lately? 3 ownership groups later, because we had those ad hoc owners for a little while there, the rotating CEOs. So 3 owners later, the Ellisons, one, they hang out with Trump and already did. They were friends with Trump from being defense contractors. Oracle Computer has more money than Disney does. They can do what they said they wanted to do when they didn't get Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers ran from the Ellisons. Everything we're seeing is that the Ellisons are ready to make wholesome family movies or movies that are fun for the whole family as well as everything else. And that is a general direction. While someone might come to them with a woke movie and they may make it, their company direction is no DEI, and we're going to make movies that people want to see. And we're not going to be subverting and destroying things anymore. And it's been widely reported. We have to consider the sources. It started here. It was also on Doomcock, and then later it was reported on mainstream media. So maybe it's true that during the meeting that the Ellisons would have had with Trump anyway about defense contracts, during the break, during lunch, he brought up Star Trek and started talking about ideas he had. And they're like, that kind of lines up with our ideas that we should have like a strong, heroic captain, that it should be a crew that people want to care about, or whatever else was said. So we don't know the exact details, but it's what we heard was it was more or less Kurtzman's lie, was what they want. A real Star Trek, more like the Star Trek we had growing up, a Star Trek that's thoughtful, a Star Trek that's fun. So instead of these crazy orange trees that may or may not grow, planted in a weird place with a storm of rain that never showed up, their modern audience that didn't exist, they have made nothing. While they have made nothing. Now remember, this stream has made more money than New Trek ever has. This particular stream has turned a small profit, and I thank you all very, very deeply. And did I greet everyone new in chat? I think I did. Germ, am I on that? Am I behind? Is anyone I missed? Mark is here. Hello, Mark Arcus. Wallace is here.
I have missed Miskatonic.
I thought I said a little Miskatonic, but Eminem, hello, Miskatonic Madman. I apologize. We're deeply engrossed in what we hope is an interesting conversation, and we hope is an evergreen conversation about how Star Trek got to this point where we think 2 licenses will go back on the shelf and 2 licenses will be dusted off and given out. Now, this first look deal, we know from what happened with Prodigy that if CBS passes, they have the right to show it to other people. It's not just implied. There's a real world case. Agreed?
No. They cannot actually do that without the explicit permission of Paramount,
right.
Without Skydance Paramount. And his contract runs out this year.
Old Paramount. Yes. But we're talking Prodigy. Rewind to Prodigy. The example for the contract I'm saying is the first look contract is a status quo contract. It was a parody. They're like, we'll keep status. You keep the deal you had, because he already was down to first look, and he was already down to permission to resell. This is where I have to make two weird analogies in a row, but I'll try to give you the Star Trek end of it first, and then I'll give you the 2 weird analogies. This is a really weird thing, but guys, bear with me. You're going to learn something about if you listen. So the analogy is this. Brand defamation is real. In music, we see it this way. You live on the East Coast enough to have possibly heard of Almost Queen. Have you heard of this cover band?
No, but I've heard of similar ones. They're
all right. Can you figure out what they do?
Yeah, because new music sucks so bad. There's a huge market for cover bands that go around and do Beatles, Doobie Brothers. I've seen a few of them that weren't that bad, but...
Well, here's the reason why they're not that bad. Listen to this shit. So I used to be more of a musician than anything else, and I went to the same studio as the Almost Queen guys, and I kind of knew them. And then when I started doing this, people who listen to this, they're like, hey guys, what's going on? Like at a backstage after a show, and one of my friends was like, I'm going to see Almost Queen. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? From Long Island? He's like, is that where they're from? Then I talked to my friend who still knows them. Almost Queen owns exclusive rights to be the Queen cover band on the East Coast. If you have a wedding band and you go out and you do Queen, you're not going to get in trouble. But if you have a Queen tribute band, you're going to get served a cease and desist order, and Queen will pay for it because Almost Queen has a license to be the only official Queen tribute band allowed to say that, and you face possible legal repercussions. Are they going to go crazy? The Almost Queen guys cover their $100,000 regional license easily, and there's 40 more weekends a year. Think about it. They command 10 to 20 grand a gig. We know people who save up to see them. There's similar deals for you too. You go to the Midwest, there's another Queen act. You go to England, so they're making a great amount of money like this. But what they don't want is something like, have you ever seen Mac Sabbath? And if you've noticed, they're hard to find now.
Yeah.
Mac Sabbath didn't play Black Sabbath good enough. Here's what Mac Sabbath was, people. It was the McDonald's characters from the 70s dressed up in bad outfits, playing Black Sabbath terribly. Think Trekkers here, but the band from Trekkers was 5,000 times better than Mac Sabbath. Black Sabbath is actually hard to play. Do you play music? Play an instrument?
Yeah, very much. Dred Zeppelin was, I think, about my favorite cover band. Now,
they are the best satirical cover band because they, what was it? Livin', Lovin' Maid, Heartbreak Hotel, and stuff like that. They gave it an original. The thing is, them and the Dead Milkmen and other professional song parodyists who also had a lot of originals who would only go Weird Al for 1 or 2 songs. They were very appealing in the 90s, like King's Missile and shit like that. Or was it Alien Ant Farm? Had that one Michael Jackson cover. And who was it? Disturbed now does Simon and Garfunkel covers.
But before you go farther down that road, I want to bring up, this is basically the point of contention where we're not in agreement. So, and I've done a lot of research on it. My understanding, Kurtzman, at the point where he made Academy, could make whatever he wanted. But when the Skydance people saw it, they had so little faith in it that all of the marketing for Starfleet Academy is done out of Kurtzman's pocket, because Skydance Paramount has zero faith in the show. My question was, why don't they Batgirl it? Why don't they just...
I know why.
Okay, but let me... Yeah, I know. Let me finish. So my understanding is he doesn't have the right to shop that around. He can't sell it to Amazon. He can't sell it to Netflix without explicit permission of Paramount Skydance, because he's still under the 2021 to 2026 exclusivity contract. So
you're correct.
My question that started this whole conversation among us is, why don't they just bury Starfleet Academy and move on to that next thing, which is Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly developing a new Star Trek movie. Those are the guys from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah,
Honor Among Thieves.
I have some optimism for that, actually. Okay, I'm going to tell you why. First of all, the reason that they're not selling it is this. The reason why Prodigy was sold was because it was good and it was no danger of it ever coming back, which is the reason why Netflix was okay with it. And it had no connection to Kurtzman financially or legally, right? And they're not going to re-imbue life into it, and he has to raise the money himself. The proof that he raises the money from the Democratic Party donor base is Stacey Abrams as world president. Remember that? She's at my consolation prize.
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta, as you said. She is in my town.
You know what?
Doing
I
her
often
little
get in trouble for
alleged embezzlement thing.
I'm going to say something right now. I get in a lot of trouble for not being political enough, and I always say I try to be, as light on the politics as I can. If I agree with something, I'll say it, but I try not to be instructional because I've seen it too much with the Star Trek, and I try not to be too heavy-handed with it because I've seen it too much with the Star Trek. People who know me know what I believe and stuff like that. So the one thing about this Star Trek is, it's really failed in every level, and it has failed to show that anybody has an interest in these things, and the overrepresentation is showing, and it's made dirt of their names in Hollywood. But let me rewind a little bit here. As far as why are they not reselling this one? Because
why aren't they just burying it, not airing it?
Because
why
there's
aren't
an
they?
Obligation. There's an obligation to show it and promote it to a certain point. There's an obligation to do that too. They can't buy it and burn it. There's must be shown obligation, which is, if you think about this one, they get first look, right? You're Kurtzman.
No, he's still under the exclusivity contract when he made this show.
First look. But they get first look. They can pass on it, and if they pass on it, he can resell it. They still have first look.
Well, neither of us has seen the contracts, but from what I'm aware of,
yes,
he's not on a first look deal. He is still on a $160 million exclusive contract that they signed in 2021. He doesn't have, as far as I can tell, and like I said, none of us has seen the contract. So, but the author that I mentioned earlier, and several, financial analysts from, various Wall Street Journal and stuff, their answer is that he doesn't have the right to shop it around and that Paramount could bury it, which is why I'm wondering why they don't. It's established they have very little faith in the show. Right. However, it's a mixed bag. They're dealing with now Skydance personnel and Paramount personnel, maybe some people, and my understanding is the new owners, which is essentially that's Skydance, they don't have faith in the show. Most of the people that gave Kurtzman his contracts aren't around anymore, so I don't know how much support he has inside the company. Now, if he actually does have the right to license out the streaming to another service, that's a different thing entirely, and that would make then I would understand. It's like we show it, we're in control of it. You know, we could always have a server crash or something, versus letting it go out to somebody else that can run it as counter programming to when they start running their new Star Trek. So, but to the best I've been able to research is,
I agree with almost all that.
Yeah, but to the best of my knowledge, Kurtzman can't go without permission from Paramount Skydance and shop this show around. But they couldn't stop him from making it.
They can't stop him from making it, and they can't stop him from making destructive announcements even to the last minute. And also, they couldn't stop him from messing up that schedule where he broke the seasons in half and turned season 4 into seasons 4 and 5 for 2 or 3 different shows. Yeah. So that's all him meddling. He did all these things to buy time because, remember, the Paramount sale was on hold. And if someone else had won the election, we know Paramount would not have gone to the Ellisons. We could be pretty sure of that by now.
And all of this
Netflix
is the
Warner Brothers things showed us. The Warner Brothers people were terrified to be part of Oracle.
Right. And all of this is part of the reason that they're offering him a contract. So basically, why not just give him the boot? They don't need him, but they want to offer him some sort of contract, which allows them a little bit amount of control from his crazy antics.
So this is my understanding. Let me just go on this one. I'll give you full time to rebut. Here we go. He can't sell this one because the last few things he sold them were so bad it started scaring people, right? It started scaring people about the long-term viability of Star Trek. Now we have to go back to music analogy and introduce a second analogy, and I deeply apologize, but please bear with me. Okay, in music, the reason why Queen rents out their license for their money is so that there isn't a terrible Queen tribute band out there doing it badly and putting videos up on MTV of doing Queen absolutely terribly. And if you look, a lot of low-quality covers, especially for high-exposure artists, go away. If you do a terrible Rolling Stones cover and post it on YouTube, like, not only is it demonetized, they might be able to make it go away. The Rolling Stones have more lawyers than like a small city. So in music, that's your brand protection. If Almost Queen switches members, if they get a new singer, they have to recertify as the New York or whatever, the East Coast Almost Queen, because maybe they're not good enough anymore. They will not allow brand destruction because they know live music is bigger than radio music, but they know the live music is the tour that they don't have to have, and they're all old now, you know what I mean? So this is a free tour for them, and they get money off of it without leaving their homes, and then their radio play goes up, and local love, as Almost Queen goes up and down the coast, people start downloading and buying their music. It's good for Queen. What was bad for artists is Mike Love from the Beach Boys was still out there, and he had the rights to perform the Beach Boys songs. He was putting them on YouTube. The other Beach Boys formed a corporation and took them off YouTube. Try finding Mike Love doing the Beach Boys, because they were so poorly done that it was brand destruction on the Beach Boys, and the Beach Boys bought out his share of the live rights to put out Beach Boys songs. He could only put out songs after Kokomo where he does it, right? And so there's bad versions of something like that. So it's not hard and fast. It comes to when the corporation changed hands. Also in music, really briefly, if you like Motley Crue, have you noticed that totally fraudulent Motley Crue out there right now? That comes down to... Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know those guys because
there's one member left. There's one member left, and if the other 3 guys got together and sued him, they could take it away from him. He's paying them enough to leave him alone. So in the other part of the analogy would be this. In the beverage industry, and one of our guys is a former Anheuser-Busch guy, right? Not in the brewery level either, like executive level. And we were talking to him about the brand busting, and he didn't confirm this because no one can confirm this because, you don't want a SEAL Team 8 coming to your house, you know what I mean? But if you and I start a brewery, we can't go to distributors. There's a law against that left over from Prohibition, right? That's how Budweiser managed to put out independent distribution across America. I don't know how old some of our audience is, but when I was young, there were 16 to 18 local New York beers with names like Rheingold, Peels, Schaefer, Schlitz, and they were very popular, Genesee, and people loved them here. And Budweiser was just one pissy beer that no one really liked. People were like, give me a Schlitz. And people in New York, to give you an idea of like how New York is, the company was shamed out of this. Nobody was really that upset here. It came from like the left coast. There was a commercial here for one of our beers. It was the one beer to have when you're having more than one. So it was just about like this is like getting drunk fuel. That was their appeal. So that if you owned a brewery and you managed to make enough money to become part of the distributorship, what happens is that at 1% market share, you come on the radar of major beverage companies like Ambev. Are you familiar?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ambev, if people don't know, it's everything. Is Coca-Cola still independent, or do they own them too?
It's my understanding they own everybody except for Pepsi.
And Yuengling. What we were told is 5.5 out of every 6 drinks in America is Ambev. That was all their information. Watch documentary Beer Wars. Sean verified a lot of this from the inside, although we are not making a documentary about Budweiser or anything like that. Now, if you hit 1% market share in your area, and I saw this happen in New York, and New Yorkers will know this, there was the Blue Oyster Brewery got distribution, right? Why would you name a bar the Blue Oyster Bar? But anyway, the Blue Oyster Bar gets distribution, and like their beer becomes popular. And so then all of a sudden, Anheuser-Busch came to town with identical labels, identical bottles, identical packages. And because they could afford to do this, they made really, really bad beer. And they sold it for a lot less than yours, and you couldn't tell the boxes apart. Do you see how that could end up after a couple of summers?
Yeah,
for the independent person. Think about that for a minute.
But with the bands, it's different. Like any band can do a tribute or a cover band because the ASCAP royalties are covered by the blanket venue license that everywhere they would play would hold.
Covered by ASCAP. If you're talking about a live performance where they sold tickets at the Garden, if you play Highway to Hell, you got to pay them. And if you play Highway to Hell for the audience walking in, you got to pay for that. But you're talking $40. It's the amount of use that maybe 10,000 in the stadium.
But the license that somebody like Almost Queen would pay for is for the trademarkable attributes of the band.
And also for the legal apparatus to enforce their license without having to do it themselves, because they're approved as good enough not to be destructive to the overall sale of Queen. Remember, the wedding singer aspect to this. If you have someone out there fucking up your music, and that's why, think of this. Think do you remember the song How Soon Is Now?
Yeah,
by the Smiths.
but
remember the song Hippie Chick?
You're allowed to do bad cover songs there's literally nothing they can do to stop you. It's covered by the live performance.
They can stop you.
I don't think that's correct. I've worked in music venues before. I don't think that's accurate.
We have that in common then. Listen, here's the deal.
But there are trademarkable aspects of a band that you would have to license out if you're doing, depending on the extent, like if you're dressing like them, if they're using aspects of their names, if you're using the song titles in your promos or something, that's where it's different. But, the worst guy in the world could go up and do the crappiest cover of any song he wanted to. That's covered by the venue license. Yeah,
that is different. Here's the thing. If you are going to an open mic, right, it's different than a club. It's different than other stuff. Open mic amateurs, they're not going to destroy their image by suing amateurs. I could go to the bar up the street and play anyone's music I want, and I could do it as good as I can or as bad as it sounds to the people listening. It's opinion.
No, I'm talking about ticketed performances at actually established venues.
If the artist has any say in it. In fact, you could ask a YouTuber this one. Ask him about Beta Music Studio in your YouTube Creator Studio, and if you have a channel, go to your YouTube Studio.
But that's a recording thing. That's different than a live performance. So I'll just say the audience, you're going to
is the same thing, because what we're talking about is protecting your brand and protecting your rights.
No, anybody can do it's a venue. The venues typically have a live performance license.
He is correct.
What?
No, he is correct.
Yeah,
he is correct.
Also, there is a different.
You're not obligated to
sell
that license.
Yeah, what you're arguing is
to take the price.
Hey, come on, man, let him talk, because he's about to say I'm correct.
Yeah, He is correct. You're arguing two different things. You're arguing what applies to what you're arguing about is recorded.
The alcohol
He's arguing live
analogy. The alcohol analogy is more useful. If we make indistinguishable Star Trek, and worse yet, it's called Star Trek, right? Now, the Ellisons have nothing but money. Remember this. The theory that we're working on that no one can prove, that I admit no one can prove, that I say is my opinion, because if I don't, I'll go to jail. This is my opinion. The last few Star Trek things, and we have watched them, every episode has been worse than the one before, and in the middle of their season, they achieved 40-minute episodes that were markedly worse than 90-minute Section 31. So I believe that what's happening is this. They want to reboot this Star Trek this year. You've heard that, right? That there's a 2026 reboot Star Trek movie. All right. He can't make any more Star Trek unless he can raise the money. So they're going to buy everything he makes if they're obligated to show it. And I am inclined to believe strongly there is a must show, must promote aspect, but they're keeping it minimum. They're keeping it minimum. You do not want to lose control of your branding now, not because of what it's worth now, but let's say like you pass on this, right? He has made this so destructive to your brand. If we launch a serious new Star Trek that all the fans are going to like, and they start broadcasting Star Trek Kurtzman Trek at the same time, your broadcast competitor will destroy you the way that Blue Point Ale destroyed Blue Oyster Brewery on Long Island, and the way that every small beer company has been destroyed by companies from Ambev who, once you hit 1% market share, do a brand busting on you. And we've seen this done to YouTubers too, where they brand bust people's YouTube stuff and turn it into a joke.
So what I'm hearing you're saying is that Paramount
out there as a weapon.
Paramount wants to destroy the brand themselves rather than let somebody else do it, and that's what I don't make sense. If they really wanted to protect the brand, they would bury this show in the deepest, darkest vault and never let it hit the air.
They're protecting the brand because legally, now we're an opinion, and you're free not to believe it. Here's where we drop the mic on this one, and we talk about other stuff. If they're obligated to show it and promote it to a certain degree on the leftover contract from 2008, when it was made in good faith with other people, right? Okay. When that contract was made by 20th century minded people in 2008, thinking it would be in good faith, no one ever thought that they would be extorted like this, but these are also the creators of the Rings of Power, and they average 23 producers per show. There is a lot of embezzlement going on, in my opinion. Do you see, what is it, $170,000 a minute on screen, Istaphobos?
No, it doesn't look any close to that.
So imagine I had a Istaphobos channel destroying weapon. I had like video of you doing your show terribly, and I just played at the same time you were on. Or imagine you were to do a subtopic of something, and I also went on at the same time with the same thumbnails, and I just, took advantage of as much confusion as I could, and I did it terribly. That is what Kurtzman is threatening. The last season of Strange New Worlds, if you watch it, and I'm not advising you do, I advise you take my word on this one, but if you watch it, you will see that I am correct to say that if anyone else controlled this, you would be fucked. They have to show it. I believe they must show it and must promote it, but it's at 2008 levels of promotion. So they're like, yeah, the $300,000 is in the bag. Don't worry. You know what I mean? As far as showing it, they're showing it so they can later burn it. They're going to burn it. They're going to burn it after they have to show it the one time. I believe they're obligated to show it once, and that's common clause. That's a common clause.
Yeah, it's not broadcasting, so they would have to make it available for streaming for a limited amount of time. Now that may be actually. See, you've never mentioned that part before.
This is so complicated, Istaphobos. Look how long it took to get here.
But I don't believe that he could shop this around to anybody else without their permission. What I think
you would buy it in bad faith. You would buy it if you wanted to hurt Paramount.
But I don't think I don't believe he can sell it, and none of the information that I've come across would indicate that he could. However,
have Star Trek Prodigy that proves he can sell it if they
no, but he didn't sell that on his own. He sold that with CBS. So my thought is he somehow convinced them that this would, when anybody brave enough to watch this show in a couple of days will see this is geared towards very, very young people. So my thought is that he somehow convinced enough people at Paramount that this could bring in a new audience, a demographic they haven't reached before, and somebody bought it. But they have so little faith in the show. They have not spent.
Was actually okay, is what they said. It was saleable on its own, and the crew was gone.
They haven't spent a single penny marketing or advertising this show. This is all Kurtzman's money. When you see the ads or the whatever,
that's what I've heard.
That's all Kurtzman. So if they have that little faith in it, and so if they do have to run it, they'll leave it up for the minimum amount of time they have to, and then they could burn it. That would make sense. But
that's what we think. And all evidence points to that we have, including the way Prodigy went on Netflix, already disconnected from Kurtzman. Remember, they don't want any more Kurtzman products, and we are told the reason they passed on Picard, and by the way, laws back this up, the reason they passed on Picard is because if you buy any more Star Trek from people you say aren't making real Star Trek to get out of your contract, you've just undercut your own legal argument. They also thought it was shit.
Yeah, I think the two possible reasons are they're showing it so they can bury it, or they're just doing a Hail Mary. We can't do any more damage than we've already done. Let's see if this actually finds an audience. Those are the only two reasons.
You're right in both accounts. I'll tell you why.
But I'm pretty sure that if Kurtzman tried to sell this to Amazon, he cannot do that without the explicit permission of Skydance Paramount. And I don't know, maybe they would do it.
Passing on it is permission.
What?
Passing on it is permission.
Yeah, no. See, that's not, because it's not a first look deal he's under right now. He is on an exclusivity deal.
Well, we don't know that, and I'm saying he's on.
No. That part we do, because we know the details of his extension that was signed by Nevins in 2021.
I disagree that they have to that he has a complete exclusivity. They have a right to. Tom Connors told me this, and I believe him. He has the right to make any Star Trek he wants.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the right to stream it or to sell it to anybody he wants to stream it. They have the first right
to buy, but if they refuse, it's up for anyone to buy. And you can hurt Paramount with this.
I would say he probably made a deal to purchase this show quite a while ago. Probably before Sundance knew what was going on.
Now remember, the Rings of Powers had similar fate with the way it looks, and also for the last 4 or 5 years, what you've been saying about Kurtzman has been progressively less true. He's been later and later.
Yeah. Because he stopped giving a shit.
Well, no, he has no money from Netflix, and CBS never had to give him much, right? He's spending all his time crowdfunding. That's why it's all the activists. That's why it's all the causes. For $100,000, we'll have an episode where, we have your revenge fantasy against any group having a grudge against any other group. And that's what you've seen is microcasting and narrowcasting. And by the way, we have to agree to disagree on the nature of what's going on with Star Trek Star Trek Academy. I do not believe it will be the second season will be shown as in full. I believe it will be compressed down to like 2 episodes. I do not believe the entire final season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds will be shown in the whole. I believe it'll be compressed down to a movie. I think they're going to get out of it as minimally and legally as possible. Because it's arbitration, we don't know. His deal is with 2 regimes back. These the Ellison people have been saying since before they bought this, they don't want him. So we do agree that he's gone and that this is going to be our darkest hour, getting through his last insult. Whether or not we're wrong or right, and we're going to drop the mic on this one now. My belief is that he's tendered them Star Trek so bad that they had to buy it, to control it, to burn it later, and have to show some of it now based on a contract, and they don't want him to get control of it again because, again, you would fuck up the premiere of any new Star Trek if you had this guy. There's going to be a puppet show.
Yeah.
And this
more like-
destructive puppet show is going to take 2 years to recover from.
Right. And my thought
More
is
likely, it is a crippling buyout if they don't show it. A regime or two actually bought the show.
Here's the thing. I don't think he got what he wanted, but I think he got more than anyone else would have given him. And they're like, look, we're not letting this out in the wild, 850 grand or whatever the discussion was as far as money. Right? It went like that. He's like, I'll sell it to whoever. Amazon will ruin you. He's like, look, maybe, because this happened to J.J. Abrams' Batman project. Did you remember the Amazon Batman from 3 years ago? That terrible piece of shit with the body positivity Ortegas?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. That
Okay,
not long
so
ago.
that was passed on by the distributor, and that pass gave them the. Now this is different people, but what's implied that this is a kind of contract that happens in Hollywood. When they passed on it, it wasn't so bad that they didn't want it to exist, so they allowed Amazon to buy it to recoup some of their money, and they had already paid JJ. So JJ's interest was in having it shown.
Right.
He wanted to redeem himself, and the other producer on that was Matt Reeves. Go ahead.
So my understanding is that Kurtzman doesn't own Star Trek. He can't sell it. He was already paid to produce it. That was part of his $160 million deal.
Right.
And they already own it. So the only question is whether or not they are obligated to air it. And I do know, like, he was in the middle of making this when the buyout finally went through, and they weren't happy about that. They didn't want the show, but it already started. So if they have an obligation to show it, they'll likely go with the minimum, but it's not a matter of Paramount owns Star Trek. Right, they don't have to buy it from Kurtzman. They license it to him, and they paid him. He already had the money to make it. I could
be wrong, and this could be a fluke, but if you look at how he made it, it's very Poverty Row. Like while I may be wrong, and I'm not here, I'm not a ride or die on anything, but while I may be wrong, does the fact that I've introduced that these are standard contracts and that I have a plausible hypothesis that is non-laughable, at least alive in your mind?
Yeah, I think what happened is he blew all the fucking money on Strange New Worlds and Picard, and there was very little left.
I think he blew it on Discovery.
To make this show. Well, that too. But we're talking 2021 here is when the new deal was inked. I think what happened is he ran out of money and he couldn't get anything more from him. They told him to stop, and he insisted on going ahead with this piece of garbage, and they're sort of stuck with it. So my only question is, do they have to show it, or could they bury it? We'll know when we see it.
They have to. Although,
now,
the good news is, every few months their obligation to him diminishes very quickly. Strange New Worlds, the money problem and the ability to fund season 3. We heard that was not there. The reason it was so poor was that the money went. The Discovery season 3. The money went to season 1 of Discovery to make that passable, and that was filled. By the way, they were rumored to have lost in arbitration to SAG and to IATSE and to other entities such as that, to have to like slave driving crews, like making a rigging crew work a 20-hour day 4 days in a row where they also have an hour drive home, so you have time to go home, go to sleep, wake up, go back to work. And like, imagine the danger. People can die on a film set. People look at Rust. Look at
almost
Rust.
Happened to Ricardo Montalban on Wrath of Khan.
And that was a well-run set.
I'm going to make a prediction. I don't think they're going to end up releasing season 2.
I agree with you on that.
I don't have a huge amount, this is like 50-50. I'm really hoping it could be wishful thinking, but I think that this show that starts in a day or two is going to be the last Kurtzman Trek that we have to suffer through.
Istaphoboss. This is the last coon place, Istaphoboss. What was ours before will be ours again. It's so appropriate that episode is where we're at.
I really hope so, because I don't, but now I understand what you're talking, and these contracts will never be made public. Beliefs.
We just have to understand each other and know that it's not nuts. There's someone on another channel who never let me explain, who has just been raving for, this is the 4th year that it's nonsensical. By the way, also the one thing that you understood that they don't is there are 4 Star Trek licenses, and they could create a 5th one tomorrow, or they can burn one. And Rod Roddenberry has to have some say in all. But
I
no,
do know
not
this.
many other people.
Regardless of what happens, Disparu is going to make a lot of money.
He's going to buy a house. He's going to be able to buy, unless it's only 4 episodes, then he might have to settle for a car. I will be back to making video essays, and it's a shame that it didn't work out for Landman. Do you watch this fantastic show?
Oh yeah, it's been my favorite show for like 2 years now. I've
What
gone
are
a
you
little
thinking?
what?
What do you think? And Germ can take this one with you. You guys, I want to hear your theories, because I have a theory that once they got renewed and criticized for woke female characters, they tried to, make the female characters less confrontational, which sucks because the male characters were also equally evil and equally unlikable. And I enjoyed it as an exciting show about people that I would never want to be around. It was a great show about terrible people. But in season 2, they've tried to put a nicer image forward for their female characters. Like Ainsley, in episode 2, she spouts off stuff from Mein Kampf at TCU, and now she's being nice. They changed
I'm still enjoying. It's still so much better, miles ahead of everything else we're getting. But I feel like this season, it lacks the coherency that season 1 had, where all of the individual stories were interwoven together. You could follow them together. This season feels like sort of like 4 different, distinct, separate arcs that you could remove one or add one, and it wouldn't change the others. So it just feels like there's less coherency.
But you're speaking to the choir here, man. Germ, sounds like our show.
I mean, holy crap, the women in that show, just that alone.
Oh, wow.
Way to
By
go.
the way, Michelle Randolph's 30. Remember that. Don't let anyone give a shit for objectifying Ainsley.
And I'm just talking about, all the bikini scenery and it definitely has some, it has some great moments, but I don't know if he was reacting to criticism or if he's just overworked. Since he's he's
reacting to criticism because he had to. Here's my theory. Because you're talking about how the season sort of went from having a pretty strong identity to slice of life every day, and we're only seeing narrative stuff coming back in the last 2 episodes, right?
That's exactly.
Electronica has called it filler, and I can't argue too much. It's been good filler because I like these characters, but I will say the 4th time that Ariana sent Cooper to ask a random person if he could marry her, I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
So
she also says
wasted too much time.
Yeah, she says it's also preachy, which maybe a little bit, but I'm finding it humorous. But here's the thing: every time,
strongly to every point, doesn't he? Right? Like in the energy talk, he's preachy and then cynical on alternative energy, preachy then cynical on petrochemical, preachy and then dismissive on nuclear because it doesn't happen, and then just ends with, "Oh no, when we run out, the whole world's going to go to hell." And it's like, what is this? A prelude to Road Warrior?
Yeah, I think any scene where Billy Bob isn't front and center chewing up the scenery is wasted time with this show. But every episode in season 1, I immediately watched it again as soon as I was done watching it. I did that this season with the first 2, and then I just kind of stopped doing it. But the last 2 have kind of picked up. So I'm very interested in seeing, they can only do so much in one episode. So I'll say season 2 was a disappointment, but I would still rather watch this show than anything else that I have as an option. Oh my God, Fallout. That is unwatchable, just brainless garbage. Oh my God. And people like the show, people whose opinions I respect. And I've tried to get them to explain it. Like, what's there to like? What do you like about this? And I don't understand it. But
Laura Purcell is cool. She can come by, but I mean, to die for her? I mean, she's not must-see TV beautiful. Like, look at this woman here. If she was in the show, we'd never miss it. It's the greatest fucking show ever. I don't know what it's about except her boobs.
Did they just roll a dice and see how Lucy, is she going to be stupidly naive or quirky Chungus, or is she going to try to be hard, badass girl boss this episode? Like her character is just up and down all over the freaking place.
Aren't they the Westworld people? So their stuff tends to fall apart season 2 and take 3 years to come to a justifiable final episode, but everything in between ends up being terrible.
Well, Amazon has unlimited money too, so this thing might go on a lot longer. It is Amazon, right? Fallout.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you meant Taylor Sheridan is now Paramount.
No.
In movies, he is Universal. But what you're saying, Fallout is that's Amazon. And
I'm hoping it'll be canceled after this season, but I think it's already been renewed for season 3. So
we've seen that fall through before.
Yeah,
it's heavy on the fan service, and apparently fans of the game series are really loving the TV series.
Okay, well that I get. I didn't like the Minecraft movie, but my kids did. I get it. So if that's who's driving the show and they're watching it, fine. But I'm like, stick a fork in it, man. This thing is done.
Disparu's invited on the show, by the way. I mean, I don't know him. We're not friends. We don't follow each other. But if you're listening, Mr. Sparu, you're invited on. So Landman, you're sounding like one of us as far as your take on the season. I will say this: if this season's identity is to maintain the stakes we got about the oil and the money, if they can in episode 10 clarify it and take away the $280 million that Cammy gets, no matter how bad it gets, I'll be okay with it because we have another season. The one thing that I think the show wants us to forget is that the money isn't gone. It will only mature a few weeks after.
It's just resting.
Jail. In fact, they're going to make a profit because he put it in some sort of long-term safer thing. Monty's money scam made sense until it didn't. That Rube Goldberg machine where he had the last 3 steps were so insane. It's like, I understand the fact that you had the speculation money and you invested it and took a loan at less interest than you would get off speculating your capital because the capital was guaranteed to come back with the profit and the loan service and more money. So smart move on you. You were going to have the money in time too. And then when it looked like he wasn't going to make it, like, are we forgetting that they repaired the patch and that is now producing again? That $440 million went into the patch, and he doesn't have the whole patch or the biggest piece, but he has the most productive.
Yeah, are we spoiling, or because something happened to Billy Bob?
What happened to Billy Bob personally?
No. In the show last week, a significant event happens.
You're free to say it. We spoiled it on our show.
Covered the show. Everyone in our audience knows it. We watch it together.
Yeah, Cam fired him. So as of now,
that
Tommy is unemployed,
and so is Cooper.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Unless I don't know how his contract works.
I'd fire Cooper too, unless I'm on crack. But you know what? I gotta say, she doesn't have the qualifications to make the call. However, forgetting that for a moment, and maybe a meth dealer isn't the best financial backer, but forgetting those 2 major problems, Billy Bob has done nothing but tell her to be cautious and quit and sell out every time. And his answer to everything is, before I answer that, you should fold your cards and leave. Well, that's an interesting idea, but folding your cards and leaving probably be a better idea. Cammy, that's going to take years and years of drilling rats, and you're sure to make your money, but we weren't talking years and years, and you got to deal with some tough people. But Cammy, you don't want to do this. So even though he's probably right, because the bad people he's talking about, maybe he should have explained, do you understand that Galeno will take Angela and you and tie you to chairs and set you on fire? I don't think he told them that. So they're just like, oh, you don't know where the money's coming from.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake that this show made, and somebody mentioned this, and listen, I love Demi Moore's performance, but her character, they should have never gotten rid of Monty.
It's a surprisingly good performance. He was gone for budget reasons. That's why Taylor Sheridan's not staying with Paramount. However, he is very happy to find out that he's getting more money than he was even asking for the future stuff, because they do know he's a good show writer.
Yeah,
and I love the attacks on ABC and Disney and all that woke shit last week was great.
Yeah, Demi Moore is amazing in the role, and she's had some incredible scenes. But her character, I'm just not. I want Monty back. I want the guy who's a wildcatter, natural born, who's telling Tommy to do crazy stuff, and Tommy's going out and doing it. So
yeah, I like that. Like, chop off your finger. Go ahead, Jerem. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, the big rumor for the show for season 3 is they are losing Cammy.
I have a funny
rumor
about that
because they haven't They haven't begun production or anything, but her and or Andy.
Well, if they can't afford John
they can't
Hamm, I
afford
don't
both.
see how they could afford Demi Moore, because she's got to be at least as expensive.
No, he's more expensive because his career is still on the ascension. And think about how much he's done leading up to this. And he's done a great job of finding these older stars in need of money. Like Harrison's fee is not as high as we think, because we have found out that Harrison just lived a lot longer than he thought a guy who smokes a fucking ounce of weed a day would ever live and crashes planes. But we love Harrison Ford until he's in Star Wars. But in 1923, how shocked were you when he shows up and he's powerful and he's killing people and he's dangerous and he's scary and he's, for lack of a better term, your father's Harrison Ford? My God, I forgot how much I missed it.
Yeah, I was more surprised. Was it 1883? Get the numbers.
1883 would be Tim McGraw, and her having no acting experience being amazing.
Yeah, that's what, and the country music and the woman too. Everybody in that show was phenomenal, and like I didn't know the guy could act. I thought he was just a singer. Her too, and they were like, it was depressing as hell. I didn't like where the show went, but it was amazingly well done.
Previous acting for them is like Hallmark Christmas. Like it's not that serious. Yeah, the show is amazingly well done.
Yeah, except singers act every time they walk out on stage. So it's a lot easier for a singer to become an actor than it is for an actor to become a singer.
And also as a musician, like rather than just a singer, he plays guitar, right? So he's used to getting harshly criticized. Like, you fretted that fucking chord wrong. Who do you think you are, Jimmy Page? You're not going to rewrite the chord library right here. You fucking play that goddamn chord right. Until he got into a position where he was able to say to people, I'm going to play this chord the way I fucking want, and he's gotten burned too. There's this whole song called Guardian Outlaw by Tim McGraw that they'll never be played again. But
I'm also reminded whenever I mention singers and actors of Bruce Willis's attempt to be a bluesman. Bruno, if you've never heard of it, forget I said that.
You know what? This sounds mean. He forgot about it. We should too. Good night, Wallace Lang. Actually, after making that rather tasteless joke, I will say Bruce Willis. I thank him now. I hope his family's taking good care of him. Honestly, the memories that he gave us for all those fantastic movies. Mr. Willis is fine, people. It's just that he has aphasia, and the chances of us ever seeing him again are very low. And he's not doing any more public appearances, and he's not doing any more work. So there's just that's it for unfortunately for Bruce Willis.
Yeah, and R.I.P. Scott Adams. We lost him today. So
get out of my the Dilbert guy.
Yep.
What the fuck was it that he got in trouble for? I do remember that there was a hullabaloo about Dilbert, but was it that it was anti-worker?
No. I think he gave some kind of speech, and the wokies called him racist or something. I don't know. I didn't really. I try as I can not to pay attention to that sort of victimization complex they have. So I didn't give a shit, but I think it was something like that. There's plenty of crap on YouTube about it. So
yeah, Blackie's right in there making fun of it too. Radioactive actuals there, guys. I think this has been a very productive conversation. Like, we're still not on, but here's the weird thing. We're on different paragraphs of the same page now, like no major real doctrinal differences. We just think that maybe the methodology and execution might be slightly different. And if one of us were to be proven right, the other one wouldn't be dunking on them or gloating. Like, you could be right. I happen to think that would you say I've got a damn good circumstantial case?
Yeah, but I don't think we're ever going to know for sure, because that's not the kind of thing that ever comes out. All we can really do is hope for Kurtzman to go away.
Well, that's the thing about what we do. If we go wild and start creating stories, there becomes a dangerous feedback loop. And we thought that was what was happening with our pal Tachyon Pulse. Because what happens is Tachyon Pulse will say something, and it might be insane. And it'll either happen or it won't. And a lot of stuff seems to be wish fulfillment. So we had him on here, and like we talked to him about a couple of things, and like he had ground rules too, and he loved it. He felt respected. He had fun. Germ, what do you think of the Tachyon Pulse's experience based on him live streaming twice in the week since we had him on?
I think he had a good time.
He was laughing.
You're, in my opinion, very fair to him.
We did ask him questions about how he gets this information, and he gave us what answers he could, and now we're left to consider it in the context he has, which is cool. Go ahead, let's focus.
Yeah, you're not. You don't want to be one of those channels that's predicting Kathleen Kennedy leaving every 2 months and ending up with egg on your face. We can speculate, but we do the best we can with the information that we have.
If you look at Admiral Teague's Disney fires Kathleen Kennedy, it has a question mark. If you look at Alex Kurtzman fired, it has a question mark. I'm not going down that road. However, I do think that it says something about Germ and I as forecasters, because we are taking that on right now. We do enough mucking around with this absolute fucking trash as far as their publicity goes to have an idea of what they want us to believe. And what Tachyon Pulse's accuracy, we believe, comes from top-tier Patreon members with writers and cast members. So he's getting first-hand information on, let's say it's Strange New Worlds, but it's what Kurtzman wants Anson Mount to believe to show up and do his thing. So
but remember, people at that level never get fired. They resign in order to pursue alternative opportunities. So... that's why
I think he was offered a contract that they say he can't accept. That's like low. The way to get rid of someone without firing them is to offer them so little money they leave, which, by the way, happened to your friend Claudia Black at Disney. She specifically said that's what they did to her.
Yeah,
and I think that's why they gave guys, if you haven't seen this show called Assholka, season 2 allegedly has been kicked till 2027. If you didn't hear that, it was dropped from the Disney release schedule this year quietly in December.
They did the same thing with Jeremy Renner, Marvel. Disney does that a lot.
Well, does Tulsa King with Jeremy Renner at least? I'm sorry, Mayor of which one is
Kingstown? Mayor of Kingstown.
With Mayor of Kingstown, Jeremy Renner's indignance was met with a more reasonable counter proposal that he met. So it looks like just negotiating there. And I think New Paramount is more into an actor like Jeremy Renner, who's like more of a traditional masculine role. And they like the Ellisons, the reason why the people at Warner Brothers didn't want to get bought, you got to love this. Did you hear about the woman disciplined for complaining they hurt her feelings?
No, but right. God, I'm so tired of that bullshit.
The woman who made the Transformers and Turtles movies for Paramount while it was in escrow was told, good job on this, but you really fucked up the Turtles. You damaged the brand. It was really bad. We're going to have to do reparative work on Turtles now. Like, the old Paramount could have sold it off. You fucked it up so much. And what the hell's with Seth Rogen? He's no longer on our projects. Like, that was a fucking $400 million disaster, or however they said it. And the guy stormed away. And so the person's name was Melissa Naito. Naito is the last name. I'm blanking on the first name, but they went to HR, as was done in the 2010s, and she said, "Mr. Ellison really hurt my feelings, sirs," or probably that was HR. "Really hurt my feelings, madam." And it's like, well, it's they them, but okay, we'll call and get to the bottom of this. And the vestigial Paramount HR left over from old Paramount called up Ellison and said, you really have to apologize to Ms. Nato because you told her that she brand damaged the Disney the Paramount brand, and that she damaged the Ninja Turtles. And you humiliated her and you hurt her feelings, and she doesn't appreciate that, and she feels that she's owed an apology. And I don't know what that entails, if he had to go to a newspaper and say he might have been a bit too hard, or give her some money, or call her up, whatever that might have entailed, a letter. And what he said was like, "Oh, really? All right, listen, I'm gonna call her right now. You know what? In fact, forget about that. Have her come over here, and I'll call you back." So when she got there, He fucking blew a gasket and screamed and yelled that when I tell you you fail with my money, you fucking say sorry and you goddamn like it, or you can fucking work for someone else. Now here's the number of HR. Call them back and fire them. Get the fuck out of my office.
Well, it's funny. Women claim, we want to be equal to men, equal rights, equal jobs. No man has ever sued because his feelings got fucking hurt. That's not. We don't know that's not how business works.
A man, but yes, you're right. They're a woman at this moment, so sure. Yeah, when you fuck something up, you get called out for a germ. You've heard that story, correct?
Yes, I have, and not just there. I've seen that in many different fields.
We can't verify that one. That's just being widely reported. That was WDW Pro did it. Everybody had a little piece of this story. So a lot of Star Trek breaking news happens here first just because we streamed it. If I had known the virility of what Tim Russ had said after what happened with a well-known public speaker, I would have made a video. We just reported it like Tim Russ is being a piece of shit again. In other news, like that's because we're Star Trek focused. But as we get ready to wrap up, before we ask you what you're doing this week, what do you any optimism that they might get it right with Scott Bakula, the old writers in Star Trek United, or you'll check in if it's you'll wait for a good review?
I think it's going to have to be an incremental improvement. I don't think they're going to hit the magic formula. That Hollywood's lost so much of the talent that has the ability and the competency to make this kind of thing. I think they're going to have to build it back up, and they'll hopefully, I think the best we can expect is marginal improvements over time, and maybe one day we get back to the level that we want.
An awesome and fair take. Honestly, I think we have enough connections to the older writers from the Enterprise story group, and their last season, their season 4, was a little bit like streaming, that there's a chance for success for them. But Germ and I think that the magic formula for it is already out there, and we're just not sure that they'll use it. Germ, it was you're the one who said it. Go ahead. Maybe he's AFK. Recurring movies, like say 3 every year, like every 3-4 months, you get another 90-minute Enterprise movie that's the equivalent of 3 episodes from the old days. So you get your streaming show, but it's broke up into consumable movie-like bits. Maybe they show it over the course of 3 weeks, 3 45-minute episodes. Those writers are really well suited for that. We think that 3 movies a year is their sweet spot for Enterprise reboot.
I can do that.
Sequel.
Yeah, what I'm getting tired of is 2-hour movies stretched out across 8, 10, 12 episodes. I'm tired. I want the return of episodic television, but if they're all 3-parters, I can totally deal with that.
What's cool is Sussman did react to my tweet on that, so he's at least seen the idea. Sussman has started liking this show's tweets, liking this show's promotions, and I don't know, like if things keep going this way, maybe we can get Sussman on here, because if he did marry Trump, he might still be fielding independent offers. All we know for sure is he's fairly well disposed towards us, and we keep telling our fans, tweet out Star Trek fans want Star Trek, hashtag Star Trek United, right to Paramount, just at Paramount Plus, and we can move the needle like we did back in the day. So, hey, Germ, what's going on your channel this week? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Respond.
No. I kind of got a heart out. I really got to go. I didn't know we'd be this long, but it was really fun. I think I'll be on Mr. Brown's tomorrow night. We're doing the movies of 1984. So come
over there.
Check that out, whether I'm there or not. It's definitely worth it. And thanks for having me on. This has been a blast.
I love talking to you. Thank you so much. All right.
Well, we'll catch up soon. Bye, Resolute. Yeah, good to stream with you. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Bye, fellas. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the end of the symposium on how intellectual property rights go. I think we've pretty much wrapped up our show anyway, Gerb. So what are you doing?
Well, tomorrow I have Random Rant Roundtable. Should be very interesting. We'll have Teague versus LDG round 2, hopefully.
Round 5. All right. Yeah, because you're my friend and you do so much for me, I'll go to your show and try to. These are the last 2 problems we've had with LDG. Last time was he would not let me speak at all because and everyone who heard what I started to say before he started screaming and yelling that I should shut the fuck up was that he had a point. So that's what you're going to get with that one. And then the week before, Germ will validate this. He got angry that I insisted that the alphabet was in alphabetical order. That was a fun time, wasn't it, Germ?
Oh, it's always a blast when we get to two of you arguing.
So you're admitting right now that you're just antagonizing me till I get angry with him.
If I had the capability, I'd put both of you into a pit and let you fight it out, Fury Road style.
Have you been like raking him over the coals? Have you been raking him over the coals these last couple of days, getting him all good and ready, like feeding him like feeding him like stimulants and making him roll around in broken glass?
A little bit more subtle than that, but been pressing a few buttons.
You've gone too far in a few places.
All right. Well, let's see what's going on. Okay, let's blow this up and thank you guys so much for being here. You've been an awesome audience. I thank you all. Hey, Rocco's here. I'm glad you enjoyed the chat. It was like really, really. Yes, when you're drunk, the alphabet is not in that order, especially telling it to a cop. Did you listen to the show too? Everybody should subscribe to my friend Germ's channel at the end of our at the bottom of my homepage. And that's where a lot of our watch parties take place, and that's where the random nerd roundtable takes place. I won't tease it tonight because we did go a little late. Let's try to keep this to a consumable length show. I tried to shout everybody out as you were here. Let me just take a very quick look at the comments and see if there's anyone I didn't greet. RRTNZ, I did greet you. Susan. Daniel, I didn't say hello. I'm sorry. Dan Crane 1 got here a little while ago. I'm sorry. We were deeply enmeshed in this one. Guys, this one's a re-listener. And let me just see how we did on likes. It looks like we were at 19, Germ, last time I checked. We are at 21 likes. Do me a favor, guys. If you could get us up to 30 likes. If you're here and you haven't liked it yet, do me a favor. Just hit that like button. I hope you've been enjoying them. Hit that like button and help us get to 30. It gives us an algorithmic boost. And going into Thursday, it looks like a Strange New Worlds panel. Thank you, Daniel. It looks like a Strange New Worlds panel. I'm sorry, a Starfleet Academy panel with Resolute Germ, Sean, and myself, and possibly JT. Thursday night, it might be late. I'm working on Wednesday and Thursday. So with that being it, Germ, you got your roundtable, you did your kaiju. Anything else to promote?
Just the Star Trek watch party and Landman watch party this weekend.
Star Trek at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and Landman at 7 p.m. Sunday Eastern Standard Time. Star Trek Saturday night, of course. We'll see you then.
Do you want the Star Wars trilogy and the mythology to go beyond your lifetime?
No. 3 will be the last.
We love you all.